Good evening. I'd like to call to order the Wednesday, April 29th, 2025 Board of Equalization meeting. I'd like to begin with the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'll now move into roll call. Let it be known that President Decker is absent and all four city commissioners are present. Under other business, Mr. Hirschfield.
Commissioner Bear, before we get into completing the value for 2025, we did have an abatement application, and I would like to just work on getting that out of the way because that's always a prior year, and to prevent any confusion during the meeting and bouncing back and forth between years. Before I started my report, I thought maybe we'd work on this abatement first and get it clarified.
Okay. Go ahead, proceed.
So with this property, it started off that the Amazing Grace Church, they occupy this building, and they'd been working with us on getting an exemption for their parsonage. And during that, we worked and discussed getting an exemption for their church proper. And we've got another property that's a leased property by a church that's eligible, but that property is owned by an exempt entity. This property is not owned by an exempt entity. So I'd incorrectly put that exemption on the request for later this evening. And after doing that, thinking that they were eligible for that, they'd asked for an abatement for last year, even though they hadn't filed for it, stating that, well, we weren't aware we were eligible, and so they didn't file. And so that's how the abatement comes before us. But as it turns out, they are indeed not eligible. We did talk to state staff. We have an AG's opinion that in order for a church to have an exemption, the property must be owned by the church themselves.
Okay. Ms. Franco.
Commissioner Bear, that is correct. Just to reiterate what Mr. Hirschfield said, he notified me of this issue this afternoon, and we did a little bit of legal research, and there is an Attorney General's opinion on point on this issue that says that in order for a religious organization to have a tax exemption and to qualify as tax exempt, not only do they have to own the property, but they also have to utilize it for religious purposes. So in this case, that two-prong test is not met, and so therefore it is our recommendation that they would not qualify for that abatement. And of course, if they have any further comments or questions, they always have the ability to address this with the county should they feel the desire to do so as well.
Commissioners, do either of you have any questions?
Nope.
Then can I ask for approval of the current recommendations?
Mr. Vice President, I move to deny the application due to not qualifying by state law.
Second.
Second. We have a first and we have a second. Do you have any other questions? We'll proceed then to vote. Mr. Frederick?
Aye.
Mr. Oderman?
Aye.
Sorry, Joe.
Aye.
All those, and chair votes aye. All those in favor, vote aye. All those in favor? All those in denial? Aye. Vote aye. But all those in denial, all those with nays, or all those with noes, vote no. I'm doing this wrong. I'm sorry.
That's okay, Dr. Bear. I think in that situation, all those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Motion
Aye.
carries.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
All right. Next.
Continuing on,
So there's a lot of misunderstanding about the role of assessors and how they affect the property tax that homeowners pay. When someone hears the term assessor, they seem to think of a scary figure reaching for their wallet. Not so. Assessors don't set tax rates. Assessors don't chase tax dollars. An assessor is interested in fairly determining property values, and they take great pride in it. Property tax is determined by a simple formula. Assessors only affect one of these variables, the value, and they do so with incredible accuracy. Assessors aren't tax collectors or even tax setters. They're just fellow taxpayers, and their primary goal is to make everything fair and equitable. Imagine that you're in a restaurant with two friends. One orders a hot dog, one orders a plate of caviar, and you order a steak. The waiter comes to the table with a total bill of $100, but he doesn't know how much each of you should pay. If everyone paid the same amount, the guy who ordered the caviar might be happy. But what about the guy who ordered the hot dog? Enter assessors. The food is your property. Just like these meals, some people's property is worth more than others. And it's the assessor's job to determine how much each property is worth. That's it. So in the same way the value of these menu items would need to be determined, an assessor places value on properties to ensure fairness and equity. After the assessor determines the value of each property, local governing bodies will set their budgets for the coming year. They set the tax rate in order to produce the dollars needed for their budgets. The value of a property does not affect the amount of property tax needed. The sum total of all those budgets is a set number that has to be divided up among all the property owners. So even if everyone's value was cut in half by the assessors, the tax rate will be raised in order to generate the same amount of tax revenue. The assessors don't determine the taxes you pay. They just determine the values of properties to keep everything as fair and equitable as possible. When you notice a change in your property's assessed value, that change is the result of a never-ending quest for fairness and accuracy. Assessors are graded on their performance, so there is a detailed system to get accurate valuations. First, the assessor looks at similar properties that have sold, their sale prices, and the terms and conditions of each sale. That's the reason your home won't just be compared to the place next door. Studying things like square footage, age, and location helps assessors determine how comparable another property is to yours. Even seemingly small details, like an extra bathroom or finished basement, can result in significant differences in value in two otherwise identical homes. Assessors maintain a thorough database of real estate information to make this process as precise as possible. Changes in value are typically the result of local real estate market sales or major changes to a property. Remodel a kitchen or finish your basement, and your property's value could increase. When you see your home's assessed value, you can rest assured that the number has not been drawn out of a hat, nor generated with anything but equity and accuracy in mind. Long story short, assessors are here to help, not trying to hinder. Their focus is accurate values, not tax collection. The only things an assessor chases are fairness and equity, and they take great pride in it.
So just an update to anybody who doesn't follow legislation. House Bill 1176, colloquially called the governor's tax bill. It passed the House and it went to the Senate. The Senate had added a couple of amendments to it. It is now back before the House. But right now, as the bill stands with the amendments, it increases the primary residence credit from $500 to $1,250. This bill also caps taxing entities' budget increases to 3%. It's got a skin in the game clause, so that outside of like homestead credits, some other items, we're still trying to make sure we're 100% accurate on that. But basically, the intent is that property owners that have a primary residence credit still pay some amount of tax to keep them from, at least through what the committee discussions were, to keep them from just voting all kinds of things in. So there's a 25% minimum that property owners can expect to pay. Assessments, or the bonded debt, special assessments, and voter-approved levies are not included in that. So like the school, since we voted for a school, that would come off the amount that, that the primary residence credit could pay for. Special assessments also are not paid by the primary residence credit. Within this, there's no change to property valuation procedures, so how assessments are completed. It must still be completed for bonded debt and insurance purposes, some other stuff that they didn't delve into, but I mean, they're using these values for other purposes besides taxation. And so with all the discussion, there was a lot of discussion that we cannot touch the way taxes or how the assessments are completed. That being said, there are a couple of bills out there that would look to do assessments as we continue to do them for bonded debt, and then do a separate valuation that may have caps on it. They're still sitting out there with no further discussion, and I can't delve into that, but they are still alive. And then, like I said, this bill passed the Senate unanimously with the amendments in return for the House for consideration. Of course, there's still the conference between the two houses, and then the governor still needs to sign it. One of the big differences between what the House had and the Senate's bill is the House bill had a credit of $14.50 and the Senate's is $12.50. So there'll still probably be some hammering out on that, maybe a couple of the other items. But for the bulk of it, this bill's remained unchanged since it was submitted. And so just, again, want to hammer on the point that in all the discussion I was listening to, values have to be accurate. That per Century Code 5702, and for the reasons stated up there, and then just, not to do so would violate our oath of office. Just want to make sure that's clear to everybody who's here that the assessments are part of the tax valuation, but not the entirety of that. So the basics, property tax contains three primary elements. We've got the budget, that's the taxing authorities in Dickinson, that's the school, city, county, and park board. They each approve a budget annually for services that residents want or ask for. The valuation is derived by buyers and sellers in the market creating value. The assessors, all we do is study those interactions, the sales that have already occurred in the prior year. Taxation then, the approved budgets are divided by the total taxable value and tax rates, and that's how mill levies are set. The amount of tax to be collected is calculated by dividing the budget by the taxable valuation. Defining property. Most property, but not all property, is subject to taxation. How and if a property tax is defined as locally assessed property, and that's all real property subject to property tax. The value is as of a February 1 valuation date of each year, and is used as the true and full value when calculating property taxes for that year. They're centrally assessed property that the State Board of Equalization deals with. That's your railroads, pipelines, airlines, and other things that are spread out across the entirety of the state. There's taxes that are paid in lieu of property taxes, and that's where an agreement between the city and these entities occur. The Dickinsons, most of those would be low-income housing, have pilots in place. And then rural electric, cooperatives, telecommunication companies, tourism, all of that, taxed through the state. And in addition, city can approve many different tax exemptions, providing relief and encouraging growth. Determining property values. The first step in determining property taxes is calculating property values for all properties subject to taxation. The city assessor is responsible for appraising each property based on market value as the standard, and to apply periodic updates to values as market conditions and properties change. True and full value, or assessment value, that's the starting point of assessing real property and the standard of value to be used. The amount believed by the assessor to be correct should be used, even though the property owner may disagree. Market value, the price a property would bring if it were offered for sale in the open market for a reasonable length of time and purchased by a willing buyer. Property classifications, buildings are commonly classified as residential or commercial, depending on use and qualifications determined by the state tax commissioner. Other classifications, such as incomplete buildings and agriculture, are other factors that affect actual value. Equalization. Equalization is required to ensure the tax levy is fairly spread over all taxable property. The city governing board meets annually as the Board of Equalization during the first 15 days in April. Their responsibility is to make sure that assessment values, or true and full value, are fair, reasonable, and equitable. Taxpayers are provided an opportunity to appeal, and the board may increase or decrease valuation to whatever is reasonable and fair. Now, a big part of this is looking for errors on a property record card. If a property owner comes to the podium here and says my value's too high because the assessor's valuing a garage that I no longer own that burned down, there's a reason to correct the card and look for a lower value. The city's decisions are then brought to the County Equalization Board for review and approval, and then finally sent to the State Board of Equalization. Equalization and grading. And so this has been one of the big items that has affected increase in valuation the last several years. There will be a lot of people here tonight, a lot of people who've called our office. And as we continue to finish this project, we'll continue to have this next year as well. But I want to point out that the house on the upper left there, well, first the grading scale is from a 1 to a 6, 1 being a higher grade, a better quality house, and a 6 being a lower quality house. For houses built before 1990, a grade 4 would have been considered average. Newer construction, a grade 3 is considered to be average. And so we see at the bottom a grade 3 house. That's one of the new split foyer houses that are built in Dickinson here and represents what we consider a grade 3. The upper left corner is a grade 5 house. So that's your 1940s, 1950s little cracker box house. Nothing wrong with the house, just an entry type house, and it's graded at a grade 5. And it depicts a lower grade property. Now the house in the upper right hand corner, I mean, I won't ask for anybody's answers here, but would you think that's closer to a grade 5 or a grade 3? And so the upper right hand house is a 100-year-old house that we have currently graded as a grade 3. It's, I would consider to be higher quality than an average quality house for its age. But initially, those properties 25 years ago, 30 years ago, after the last oil bust in the 80s, they were a larger house, harder to heat, more expensive to heat, and so there wasn't as strong a market for them. And at that time, in order to get an equalization of values, they graded that property as a 5. And just looking at that, you can tell it's a higher quality property than the one on the 3. And so as we go through time and we add increases on this year, we've got a 7.5% increase. If you add that to a grade 5 house, the 7.5% doesn't add as much value in dollars to a grade 5 as it does to a grade 3 house. And as you continue over time, not only do you have that inequitability of the house not actually being a grade 5 as the appeal of it increases, but you also have the inequitability of the 7.5% increase given to the grade 5 not keeping up with what should have been made to a grade 3 house. And then that doesn't become aware to us until we, in our revaluation process, whether we finally get to that area, whether it's through the sale of the house, but when we arrive at that house for the first time, we realize, oh, this house is not a grade 3 like it should be, it's a grade 5. And when we correct for that grade to meet the current market so that the assessed value is closer to what the sale price is, that sometimes leads to a pretty substantial increase in overall value. And just wanted to clarify how that comes about, because that's been a question here several times in the past. And equalization of the sales ratio. State board requires that we use the sales ratio as an indicator of assessment value compared to market value. And simply, the ratio is what is the assessed value divided by the sale price. That number has to fall on a median level between 90 and 100% with the tolerance that's established. State law says market value is 100%. On a median basis, that would be the middle, 100% value. 50% of the houses would be assessed higher than their sale price. 50% would be valued lower than their sale price. With our tolerance at 92%, we have adjusted that down to where 80% of properties are valued less than their sale price. Equalization and the auditor's role. This is just stating that notice of increase must go out if there's a value increase of $3,000 or more and 10% or more. That notice must be given in 15 days. Property owners who receive the yellow notice are the ones affected by this. The taxable valuation is the amount that is considered the tax base. This represents the net assessed value of all property within the jurisdiction subject to taxation. This amount is calculated by using an assessment ratio of 50%. So we take the true and full value of the house, say we've got a $400,000 assessed value based on sales. So that would be 50% of that, what would be the assessment ratio. And then from there, there's a factor of 9% established to residential properties and 10% established to all other classes. Residential properties defined as 1 to 3 units. So single family, duplexes, triplexes, those are residential. 4-unit, fourplexes, all other apartments, all other class properties, vacant lots are then taxed on a commercial rate. And then the valuations multiplied by the mill levy will determine the total revenue to be received by property tax. So what does that mean to me as an individual? My house is valued at $400,000. What's its taxable value? So again, we take the true and full value, that $400,000, that's the assessed value, or times 0.5 is the assessed value. It's residence, so assessed value times 0.09 is taxable value. That taxable value then, with the math, 400,000 times 0.5 times 0.09 is $18,000 of taxable value. And so if we're doing a homestead credit, I don't remember what the allowances are for that. If it was 9,100, saw 11,500, that's within, before the legislation as well. That would be the amount that would be eligible for homestead credit, and if the house is worth more than that, say in this case it's 18,000, that part would be taxable. And then so we've come to my taxable value of my house. How did you arrive at my taxes? So the Dickinson City mill rate this year was 260.10 mills. Our taxable value for all city properties for last year was $140,461,880. So based on that, I just reversed the math to come up with the budget amounts that the 4 entities had presented to the auditor. And so the way it would work is this time of year, the assessor's office comes up with the taxable value. That's the $140 million value. And then in October, thereabouts, you as the commissioners for the city, and then the 3 other boards arrive at the amount of budget monies that they need. That's where the top value comes from. And then between that, that's where the mill levy comes from. That's important because then that mill levy goes back to every person's personal property there, not personal property, but real estate, and is taxed against the 18,000 value in this case. Take the 0.2601, the 260.1 mills, and it arrives at your $4,682 worth of tax. Mills levied in Dickinson. So this is a pie chart of all the mills, the 260.1 mills. You'll see that the math comes up to 2 short of that. There are a couple of state mills included. But City of Dickinson is 40.27 mills as compared to the other taxing entities. And then same graph here, but as a percentage. City of Dickinson's share of the taxes is 16%. So my conversation with property owners is they're not aware that the city of Dickinson doesn't control all the mills. We only control 16% of them. And one of the things that Mrs. Carlson and I last night were working on some other data points that as you have continued to hold the budget at $5,700,000, and then we have added new growth to that, it has essentially decreased the amount of tax property owners have paid to the city of Dickinson. So their property taxes may have increased, but it was not due to the actions taken by this board. It's actually gone down for the city. Other items to remember, we've got a valuation date of February 1. With new construction, that always catches some folks on either side of that. We start after the first of the year, depending on the amount of new building and new construction that's out there. And so some properties may be a little bit more done by the time February 1 rolls around compared to our inspection date, and those that we continue to have to inspect past February 1 may have a little more work completed than they would have on February 1, but we are the amount of staff we have, and we get to everything as quickly as we can. And there at the bottom, I just want to point out median sales prices of homes. I've got this from the Badlands Board of Realtors MLS. They've increased, the median sales prices increased from $145,000 in March of 2010 to $300,000 March of 2025. That's 207% increase, or annualized amount of 13.8%. And we touched on property tax exemptions earlier. Got homestead credit, disabled veteran, improvements to commercial and residential buildings, new construction of residential properties, new and expanding businesses. So the homestead credit and disabled veterans, those are from the state, so those are automatic. The other ones have to be approved by the city. When I started, we did have new construction of residential properties to help incentivize construction of new houses. But when we got to putting on 300 and 400 and 500 houses, new houses a year, we removed that and see the need to continue incentivization. This map is a new map to us. Like I said, after the Board of Equalization last year, and realizing, you know, which properties we have not visited yet, and by this I mean none of my staff has visited in the length of time I've been here. And we've now identified 1,059 houses that we are set to get to and complete this here coming year. If you see the shaded arrows with the little zeros there, that's the locations that we will be at. So if your house is in that, expect to be receiving mailings, maybe door hangers, and knocks on the door.
Excuse me, I'd like to take a look at this if you don't mind. Does zero represent you haven't been in these areas at all, or just individual houses?
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Sir, these zeros here, what does that represent? Is that the houses you've been to, or
The-
houses that you need to go to?
Those are the houses we have not been to. So scattered throughout the entire city, there's been a handful that we missed, but those regionally, those are the regions we're working towards. And then this map, once we, well, it's our revaluation map, and we've broken the city into what we've identified as 6 relatively equal zones to try and keep neighborhood boundaries, roadway boundaries together. We have about 1,200 to 1,300 houses in each one of these areas, which is a good amount of work to be able to be done in 1 year, but it's something we should be able to complete in a year's time and annually move through this on a continuous basis every 6 years. So when we get from one end to the other, we would start back over. The intent is that we are able to avoid the large increases that we've had to put on the last several years. At that point, we're doing minor updates. If somebody's done some siding, maybe out of the deck, an addition or something like that, we're able to just add that value and not have to do the significant amount of changes. And just briefly, before we get into the meat of the discussion, the commercial side, the market indicated all commercial properties were up, but the hotels and apartments had increased or sold for a significantly higher amount than what their assessed values were. We increased the value of hotels, we increased the value of apartments. Show the median there for hotels was 55%. After the increase, it raised it to 87%. Similarly for apartments, they were at 76%. We raised it to 85%. That gets it just in line with where the rest of commercial was. At that point, I was going to make a across-the-board adjustment to commercial, but the value added through this equalization to these two units, or these two classes of properties, plus the vacant lots, was enough that we didn't have to make any further increases to commercial to bring them within tolerance. So all the other commercial properties will get a reprieve this year from any increases. And just so everyone understands here, the state of North Dakota has its own system. It's not on a USPAP system like other states are, so the assessor is required to have a Class 1 assessor license. And just so everyone understands what that means, it's 180 hours it takes for an individual to get that, plus 28 hours of continuing ed every 2 years. And that's set by the State Board of Equalization, and as you can see, we've got state staff and the governor's signature on that. So that's where my licensure comes from. Any questions?
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Oderman?
Mr. Hirschfeld, first of all, thank you for the presentation. I want to be clear before I start my comments here that I think your staff works really, really hard, and you genuinely want to get as close to the real and full value, true and full value as you possibly can. I honestly think that you're doing your best and you want to be honest in your valuations. That being said, I do have one question. What is the highest valuation increase that we have this year?
And I'm assuming you're
By a
not
percentage.
not talking commerw, or I'm sorry, new construction. You're talking just
Yeah.
through
yeah,
revaluation.
Yeah, through revaluation.
Low 70s?
Low 70s?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I love your 6-year revaluation map. I think that is a great way to approach this, so that we know, like, within 6 years, you're going to be back in a neighborhood that you reassessed. That's a little higher than I had hoped it would be because when you were talking about that 6-year revaluation window, I'd like us to have a conversation tonight about trying to do again what we tried to do last year. And I think what we tried to do last year was the 15% cap on valuation increases over, and so that we could catch up over a 5-year period. I'm willing to extend that out to 6 years with this new reevaluation map. I think that would be a good way to approach it. That would allow for, what's that math? 15 times 6. Oh, so 90. So yeah, I mean we're within that window of the 70th percentile there. I think that's something that we need to talk about, giving it the old college try again this year, of capping the valuation increases and catching up over a period of time. I know that with inflation and things like that, after 6 years, you might still be behind the 8 ball, but you're not going to be 76% behind the 8 ball. What does everybody think?
The only question I have is, if we cap it at 15 and we have to do a citywide, let's say 8%, so would it be then 15 plus 8%? Or else they're going to get behind the 8 ball again. You understand what I'm saying? Because you're not gonna. I said if you do I'm trying to say if you do 15% cap, which I like your idea, but if we have to do an equalization of let's say 8%, are we gonna? Is that one gonna be 23% or 22% then, or?
I mean, I think what we talked about last year was that you catch up on that after you get the value closer to that 76% value.
Because if you take, let's say it's 8% a year. I don't know what we've been averaging, but let's assume it's 8% a year. Well, times 6,
I mean, like,
then you're only
how
really-
long? But how long do we think that will actually last? That like valuations will go up 8% a year. Like, I mean, like, is that going to be
since
forever?
Since 2010, they've gone up 13% a year. You just showed that. Yeah.
But I mean, like, we had a significant catalyst there with the boom.
I agree. But we're in that same situation right now. I mean,
Sure.
there's very little inventory on the market. What is out there is selling for, I mean, it's definitely a seller's market. I mean, it's selling for top dollar,
I don't know about that. I've seen a lot of houses up there, the $400,000 or $500,000 range houses have been on the market for 3-4 years plus. There's a house right next to me. They take it off the market every year for the selling season, but
Commissioner Bear,
reduced to
Commissioner Bear,
$1,000.
these comments need to stay when we get to that point, so let's,
Can we say the public
yeah.
comments?
you'll get an
when we
opportunity,
get to that
sir.
point? Right now, just let the commissioners kind of talk and ask questions.
I mean, that's my only question. I don't want us, if we cap it, I'm open to it, some kind of cap, but I don't want to get those properties we cap them farther behind because we're doing 8 or 10% a year and, they're only maybe picking up 5%.
Yeah, and I guess the way I'm looking at it is if you cap it at 15%, that's a little bit more manageable in terms of like an increase over like 76% in 1 year. And so like it's not, the sticker shock isn't as extreme. Like let's say you get to year 7 and we've had that 8%. Well, that's still less than 15%, and it's going to take less time to catch up to actually the true and full value once we get to that 6th year and we get to a reassessment. I would hope that after 6 years, when they get back into the neighborhood, that assessment is closer to that true and full value that the assessor's office actually comes to at that point. And so you might still have to have catch up after that 6th year, but it's a lot less significant catch up.
I understand that. Where I've seen the frustration on both sides is that I've had people call me and say, I bought my house in this neighborhood 2 years ago, and my assessed value is up here because we have a current sale.
Yeah.
And the neighbor's house 2 down is almost exactly like mine, but remodeled.
Yeah.
And they're assessed $150,000 less or $100,000 less.
Yeah.
That's where the equalization thing is frustrating because we're not really getting these equalized. Because that property that's 100 or 150 less should have caught up by now, and it's not. So that guy's paying way less tax, and
Sure,
he's got
yeah.
the same house as I do, but I only bought it 2 years ago. Because there was a recorded sale. So there's frustrations on both sides. People are frustrated that their value went up too fast. I get that, but there's also people that say, well, mine's up here, and the house just like mine, 2 houses down, is down here. Why is that?
Yeah, and I've heard that same feedback. I think the response I would have to that is, if you just bought your house 2 years ago, you and your bank went in with both eyes open.
Agreed.
And so like, if my value goes from $300,000 to $500,000 overnight, maybe it's too much house for me in terms of can I afford that property tax increase? And so I think what I'm looking for is like, how do we get to that equalization that you're talking about, but then also make sure that people have roofs over their head?
Mr. Hirschfield?
Thank you, Commissioner Bear.
we had talked about this kind of earlier, and you
So-
expressed what concerns.
So a couple more points of information and then a huge concern. We did this last year. We added and changed those values. We took it to the county. They removed those values. That process took 5 weeks. And so there's a significant amount of work that wasn't done with that, putting it on and taking it off. Also, there's, a great deal of fear because of the higher valuation, and people are concerned about the higher taxation, understandably so. But as a reminder of what we went over earlier, there's a good chance that bill is going to cap budgets, whether that's good for the community or the jurisdictions or not. It's going to cap those at 3%, which is going to mean less of an increase of taxes for those property owners. In addition to that, we have the increase of the primary residence credit from $500 to $1,250, $1,450, wherever that ends up. That is going to cover a lot of the increase that some of these people are seeing. So if you have an increase in your value of $100,000, I'm not saying that's an insignificant amount. That equates to about $1,000 worth of tax. The primary residence credit is going to cover a lot of that. The cap is going to cover a lot of the rest.
So,
And then the concern that I have after what we went through with the county and then the guidance we got from the state would be, properties are supposed to be at their true and full value. They're supposed to be equitable. And now that as having taken an oath of office, that's the oath I took, was to bring that value to you of that. And are we breaking an oath if we change that? That is the concern that I have, and then just that, like I said, the additional information I provided.
So Joe, I appreciate that, and like I started my comments, I genuinely think you are trying to do the right thing. I don't think it violates your oath of office if you say, hey, this is the true and full value, but we got to take some time to get to it in terms of increased in valuations. I'll share my concern, and I'm not going to ask you to raise your hands, but if I asked the people in this room right now if they voted yes on Measure 4, maybe 50% or less would, okay. If we don't do something and Measure 4 is back on the ballot, I bet every hand comes up in this room. That's my concern. And so, we have to do something. And we have tried in Dickinson. 5.7 million is what we have levied for 7-8 years. And the net effective tax rate has come down every year as a result of that. But for someone who gets their valuation statement and their property almost doubles in value or more than that in 1 year, that is sticker shock. That is very hard to swallow. And like I said, they might not be able to pencil it out. And don't we want people to live in our community? Or do we want them to move out into the county where it's just basically a flat 4% hike every year? And that's what's going to happen. Or people are going to move out of our community. So that's my concern. And so I'm not saying there is not one cell in my body, Joe, that doubts your valuations. I think that you probably are one of the best in the business, but we cannot put this on the individual taxpayers just because, and this is through no fault of yours, like that 30 years ago, that house is sold and the assessors at the time didn't keep up with those valuations. You're cleaning up a mess. But let's take some time to clean up that mess. And that's the stance I would hope that we would take. I don't think the county overturns it this year. In light of everything that's happened at the state level, I think everybody realizes that something has to be done. And I'm for Dickinson setting the example like we have for the last 7 or 8 years with freezing our collections, but taking it to the next level and capping the increase in valuations. So, I mean, I'll shut up now. I've said a lot, but that's what I think we should do. And I came in here ready to go even more extreme and crazy and say it's 3%, let's go 3%. But that's not a realistic number for us to throw out, because we'd never catch up then.
But I've always said that was something that I would like to see citywide, 3% everybody, but I was told it wouldn't work out, but I don't see why not. But I guess, Mr. Earthfield, my question is, I mean, I do agree with part of what John is saying, that big sticker shock, and I don't want anybody to leave this community. These people love this community as much as you and I and anybody up here leaving, having to sell their house that they've been in for a long time. I would like to find some common ground that we all can come on, and at least, and my question to you is there a way to do this where there's a step up so it's not so hard on people? Again, especially times right now are really bad. Is there something we can do to make it easier on our people? I'm just throwing that out there.
I mean, certainly physically, we've shown last year that we can do that. Legally, I don't know. Also, just to make sure we're all on the same even keel, John asked me, Commissioner Oderman asked me, what was the largest increase, low 70s? That also includes the 7.5% that everybody got. So if you peel the 7.5% off, now you're down to the mid 60s. And so Commissioner Frederick had asked for 20% and over. So at the 20% level, it's 12.5% increase to those, because 7.5% is what everybody already got. And what is an acceptable amount? So if it's 15, then you're looking at anything over 22.5. And, where do we want to start on that? I'm just looking at a time factor on this again. And then the legal side, I don't know that it goes through the county. I know it probably won't go through the state. The state staff's already said you can't do that. That's what they said to us last year. And so those are the concerns I bring in. Not you guys, God bless you guys. When we see the increases going on and we're sitting there, we haven't changed our budget in 7 years, and the effect of that is a decrease in everybody's taxes because of that, because we've got the new construction going on. You guys have done your job already.
Well, and Joe, I appreciate where you're coming from on the state staff telling us something, but state staff doesn't dictate it. State Board of Equalization does. So state staff can say whatever they want, but there are 3 elected officials and the other people that are on that State Board of Equalization that have to sign off on it. And so and what I've been told by at least one member of that State Board of Equalization is that if we can justify what we're doing, if we're saying, hey, we're going to catch up over this period of time, they should accept that. And I said I would shut up, and I didn't. I'm sorry, but I'm not in support of the 15 plus the 7%. I think it should just be a flat 15. So that's where I'm at. And if you say that 76 is minus the 7%, you're getting me to think, should we lower that to 12? Because it's going to take less time to catch up then. So maybe you should stop talking too.
Commissioners, any other questions?
Commissioner Oderman, I do have a point. I'm recalling my recollection from when we had this good discussion last year, and if I recall correctly, the question was asked, how many homes would have been affected by that significant increase? And I'm wondering if that plays a factor here. We need to have that conversation. Are we just talking every home across the board? It's capped, or is there a certain amount or a certain number that we're looking at specifically? I know we had that conversation last year, and we had to go back and further clarify what the intent of the board was. So I just want to make sure that I'm fully understanding what you're specifically requesting.
I should have came prepared with this, but like, I would make the exact identical motion that I made last year,
Okay.
whatever that was.
Okay, we can look that up.
Okay.
I want to make sure that I'm understanding.
I mean, it was a handful of houses, I believe, last year, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, like,
I'm trying to remember, what was the last, maybe, was it 20, 30 properties total, maybe, possibly? Last year?
Yeah, I can't
Last year?
remember.
I think it was 300.
Or was 300? Okay.
It was a lot, and right now, our revaluation houses are 117. And that would be 20% or higher. And so.
Yeah, because it
if-
wasn't for new construction and stuff like that. It was just, yeah. Yeah.
And that wasn't included, but I remember Mr. Hirschfield putting together a list, and the question was asked how many properties were affected at a certain percentage or above. And then that is what if my memory serves me correctly, that's what we focused on when that motion was made.
Yeah, it would be for the revaluations.
Yep.
Yeah, that would, like I said, exclude new properties or,
I think we excluded sales too. Because you had a,
if there's, yeah, if
you
there
had a
was a current
market, yeah,
sale.
yeah. So how many would it be on the revaluations that are in excess of 15%?
Well, the number I have, Commissioner Frederick had asked us to pull 20% higher. That's the number I'm going off of. That number's 117 that were revalued. But if,
And that includes the 7%?
that includes the 7%, 7.5%. So, I mean, using your math, 7.5% off of that, if we had 15%, that would be starting at 22.5% then. And then the question is, if we get to 70 or 80% between 22.5 and 40, we're talking 20 or 30 houses that are above that. And it is, you can make that argument either way. I mean, it's 20 or 30 houses that are getting something that everybody else isn't. And that's where I think the concern of the state staff is you lose that equitability then. And I understand your,
It's 20 to 30 houses where the property owners are taking it in the shorts too.
well, no, because we're getting them back to equalization.
Oh, sure, yeah, no.
It's been a benefit to them for 25 years.
No,
It's a shock
yeah.
now, I fully get that,
Yeah.
but it's been a benefit to them.
Mr. Hirschfield. Is this where we could do an independent assessor and bring them in? I know it'd be a cost to the public, but is this where that would help?
I think what you're trying to say is a reval, right?
Yeah.
A citywide reval. I mean, I think we've tried to get that.
I actually, with Mr. Hirschfeld's plan of the 6-year reval, I don't think we have, if he thinks he can do that, I believe his staff can do that.
Okay.
And
I agree.
I don't think we need to do that. Like, I mean, let's save that money. Because, I mean, that's
I
what,
mean,
like
and-
$2 million?
Well, yeah, it was $1.8 million. We've got one year left to get all the properties on board, and then we start a revaluation process.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was $1 million, almost 2 million, yeah.
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 But I'm saying,
So I
that
mean,
would be an option if.
well,
if you chose.
it certainly would, but I mean, that's a decision that this board over the last 25 years, not you four individual, I mean, you four last October, whenever we did that proposal, but has been the weighing the cost of doing a full valuation in a year's time versus the little bit of pain, or maybe a lot of pain, it might be what some people think, on an annual basis here. So we've done this as a staff, we've grown the staff, we've endured these Board of Equalizations in order to save the citizens $1.8 million. And they should be aware of that. We've saved them $1.8 million, but there's a little bit of pain that comes with that.
Any further comments, questions? Okay. Move on.
I don't know where I mean, is this something that we have a final meeting where you could make us a list of these properties that we can discuss, right? If we decide to do something like this?
Yeah, we can continue to discuss this as something outside of everything else we do tonight. I'd ask it,
I mean, do we need to make a final decision on this tonight is what I'm
going to defer to Attorney Wenko. I mean, I would think that if the issue is not the valuation, we should conclude that part, and maybe we hold back the final valuation. And that way, if persons have concerns about their property valuation, you know, whether it's equitable or not, we can answer those tonight and take care of all of that, so that's not left out there hanging for the citizens to worry about, and then work around this other question, I guess.
Mr. Chair, I would have one quick question. Are we just discussing residential values right now, or can we discuss commercial as well?
We can certainly continue on with the agenda and just kind of sit on this topic for right now, if you like.
Well, just from a valuation standpoint, like we had Vanguard come in and do a commercial reassessment last year or the year before.
Correct, yes.
Okay.
Went on last year, yes.
Yeah. Okay. And what was the commercial increase this year?
0.
And so Commissioner Oderman and Commissioner Bear, if you like, well, I'll continue on then with that part of my report, and that'll certainly cover what you're asking there, and then we'll take additional questions afterwards as you have them.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
So I've got the highlight sheet here of the value. I was doing some math changes on that, adding that property that we did not give the abatement to. And so added to the commercial valuation will be $377,800, which will make that total for this year $1,307,198,088, as compared to last year's valuation of $1,131,906,868. Residential properties, a value of $2,036,000, or $2,036,856,000, as compared to last year's $1,857,863,000. So the total valuation, true and full valuation for the city this year is $3,344,054,088. New construction for commercial is going to be $67,166,818. And then I believe we need to add that $377,800 to that, but I'll double check the age on that building, whether it was new this year or new last year. Residential increase this year was $17,632,000. The decreases to commercial was $1,337,800, and the decrease to residential was $2,054,500. So our taxable valuation is $156,999,534 plus the $18,890 of taxable value that property we had for the abatement will need to be added to that. Our new construction added value is $3,992,438. the median sales ratio, our commercial properties sold with the ratio of 85.7%. That means the middle of that, average, median, similar numbers. Our assessed value is at 85% of what sales prices are. Similarly, residential properties was at 84.8%. So we're 15% below what market value is on average. After adjustments for the increases to commercial, and like I said, we removed vacancy factor to vacant lots and residential vacant lots because we did that to commercial last year. We increased apartment values and we increased hotel values. The action of those three classes of property brought values to 94% ratio, so well within tolerance. And our residential properties right now sit at 91.9%. So, Chairman Bear, Mr. Oderman, any additional questions?
Mr. Nolan, any questions? Any further questions? Move on to item C. Okay. Okay, moving on to item C. All right, so the board may change the valuation and assessment of any real property upon the roll by increasing or diminishing the assessed valuation. Therefore, as shall be reasonable and adjust to render taxation uniform. Except that the valuation of any property returned by the assessor shall not be increased more than 25% without first giving the owner or his agent notice of the initiation of the board to increase. Okay, Mr. Earthfield, would you like to continue?
Thank you, Chairman Bear. I don't have any changes to bring to you today outside of what's at the end of our agenda is the exemption list. Is just making sure at some point we recognize that we need to remove that from the exemption list and add that value back to our true and full value.
Moving on to section D. Okay, so during the session, the board, any person, his attorney or agent feeling aggrieved by anything in the assessment roll may apply to the board for the correction of alleged error in the listing or valuation of his property, and the board may correct the errors as it may deem just. Mr. Ersfield.
Thank you, Chairman Bear. I think at this time is when we open it up to anyone out in the public. And again, just should be known that, I mean, there's a lot of grievances out there, but we're here to equalize values. The property owner should be coming forth with a grievance about their value and whether it's an accurate value and what errors are on the property card that are causing that incorrect value and not just a difference of opinion. I mean, it's your meeting, but you know, we don't do taxes here. We've shown that this board is very responsible in how they tax. And, you know, an overall grievance of taxes this is probably not the best place for that, in my opinion, but as you as the commission there, I believe this is the point where we would open it up to the public.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Commissioner Odom.
just a point of order, and this might be a question for Mr. Dossing or Mrs. Wanko. We did have the sign-in sheet. This is our first public meeting since we have the new, there was a sheet back there. Are we going to go off the order on that sheet, or? Okay, that's just a sign, like a sign-in sheet? Okay. Okay. I thought that was the public comment sheet. Okay, all right. Yeah, no concern then, yeah. I was just
I
curious.
think we may have added a column noting whether they do or do not want to speak, though.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you. Okay, thank you.
we will then open it up to the public who would like to come forward. Please state your name.
Mason Simons. All right. I guess I'm sure a lot of us here here based off of valuation. So I had a few quick questions on what you call valuation on your, because I get this statement. I've bought in 4 houses in the last 4 or 5 years maybe. And every single time I've been significantly, off on the city's valuation compared to what I paid. And so I was just curious, do you ever go based off of what somebody paid for the house?
Chairman Bear, Mr. Simons, absolutely. Everything we do is based on the sales ratio analysis of the sales that have occurred. Any given year, we've got 500, 600, 700, 800 sales. We make every attempt to visit every one of those properties to review the property record card and whether it's accurate or not. If it's not accurate, we don't want to use that as a sale and indicator of market. We want to try and use those where the property record card most represents the property as it sat the day that it sold. The reason for that, just simply, if we've got a $200,000 house that's assessed and it sells for $300,000, why did it sell for $300,000? Is the market up $100,000, or did the property add a garage? So if it adds a garage, we would have changed the value of that property, but we don't want to add a 50% increase to everybody else's property because that's not a market change. That was a physical change to that property. So same token, if we go in the $200,000 house sold for $100,000, why was it less? Did the renter go in there and rip all the cabinets off the property? Pull the plumbing and the fixtures and everything, and so it's damaged, in which case we would change the value of that property to meet its condition. But we don't want to decrease everybody's property 50% because that's not what the market was showing. It was just to that individual property.
Okay, so when the house sells, you do actually go into every house that sells throughout that year, or is that part of the 6-year plan that you showed?
We do try to get into every sale. That's not a requirement that we're let in, so we may estimate from the street, but we do try and make a review of all the properties that sell, yes.
Okay. All right. I guess, so on your presentation, you said that about 50% were lower, 50 were higher. So far, in my experience, all of mine have been higher significantly. My first house I bought for $143,000. First year, I believe it was valued at $192,000. The second one was I bought for $160,000, and that was valued at $220,000. So just those two. Those two aren't even that crazy. The third one I bought for $100,000. First year it valued at $133,000, and then the next year valued at $150,000. So 50% in 2 years. And then the last one I bought just a year ago for $260,000, and this is what I'm paying. And that one I just got my letter this year for $340,000. So significantly higher on all of mine. So that's why I was curious if you actually valued off of the sale, because I get how assessors and appraisers go in and they find similar houses and what you were talking about, similar grades. But in my opinion, the most similar house to the one I bought is the one I bought. So if I bought the house for $260,000, which now value is an interesting word because I may value, as you showed the first thing in your presentation, my value for something may be higher than somebody else's value. So the sellers of these houses actually valued these houses less than what I paid for. And many other people in the markets valued it less because I was the highest bidder. Mm-hmm. And then the sellers still had to minus out any closing costs that they covered and fees for realtors. So they actually valued it even less. So the highest value, fair market value, is what I paid for, and I'm still being charged significantly higher. In the one case, I didn't do the percentage on the one that I currently just said, the one I'm living in, but what is that, $80,000 from $260,000 to $340,000? So that's about 30% in a year. So I don't know, like you said, the highest ones are 70%, but it is kind of a shock to pay 260, and then the city says, well, you just got an $80,000 good deal.
Well, and certainly, Chairman Bear, we always recommend, we try and get to every house. Maybe we didn't get into every one. Anytime you have a concern about your value, please contact us anytime during the year. I mean, we do set values at this meeting, but between now and the county, so if you haven't had a chance to talk to us yet, we can review the card, make a recommendation to the county. If there's serious things like I stated to begin with, that there isn't a garage, we value the garage that does not exist, and we can verify it didn't exist, it burned down, the fire department's got a call on that. Then there's the abatement process for that too. So we always try and be as accurate as possible, and that, I mean, we're a staff of 7, and there's 10,500 parcels. We don't visit them all every year. And the person who knows the most about the property is the owner. So if ever you have a question, please call us.
Okay, I probably will be calling you. So, and then the main thing I wanted to come up and talk about, though, was kind of what you guys were discussing about the increase. I do agree with Mr. Oderman. 2010 to this year is a big difference. We had a boom in the 80s. So if you'd have gone from the 80s to 2010, that number would have been a lot different probably, because most houses were built, 80s, 90s maybe, but a lot of these houses that are around were built 70s and 80s. So there is that difference of increasing. Now, I like your idea of 3%. I really do. Just capping it at 3%. That seems really good to me. And I kind of had an idea. Why can't we do that and then just reassess it when we sell? Because you sell the house, and then that's the new place to start going off of 3%. Because kind of like I was saying about value to Mr. Hirschfield here, on a house that I buy, year 5 of me paying my mortgage, I'm still paying the same exact thing except insurance and taxes. That's the only thing that's gone up. So the value that I'm giving to pay for my house is still the exact same as when I bought it. And I get that, you guys want to put things up, but it seems fair to me that you set the price when the sale is made and then do that. I doubt it's going to be 3%, but it'd be nice to hit closer to 3% instead of, 8 or 15 or whatever the current, is going to be. So do you have any?
Well, 15 is closer to 3% than it is 76.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So I don't know. I just was thinking about that. Why can't we just do that? And then the other thing, so I got a 30-year mortgage on my house. At 8% increase on my house, I paid $260 for it. Do you know how much I'll pay in taxes by the time I pay off my house? Just guess. About $350,000 at 8% increase. So did I pay the previous owner for my house, or did I pay the city? Like I'm not saying, I know you guys, I appreciate that you guys, keep the budget down. I didn't know that until tonight. I appreciate that. But I am saying it'd be nice if we could get that down to closer to that 3% mark, because at 3%, I'm still paying a lot in taxes by the time I pay off my house, but it's not $100,000 more than what I paid for my house. And I get that, property values go up over time, but that's just an idea. If we could, it's kind of a compromise between your idea and keeping things up is just reevaluated at the sale. You said how many houses sold this year?
Chairman Bear, Mr. Simons, I don't have the exact number, but typically we run in the 600 to 900 houses a year range. And then
Is it possible for you to do that many valuations in a year?
yes.
Okay.
No.
So this is possible, and actually probably even more simple if you just went off the sale of the house, which, like I said, is probably the most accurate fair market value, is the actual sale of the house. Because like I said, the highest bidder got the house, and then just go up 3% from there. Or maybe we'll compromise and go 4 for Mr. Frederick, but I just thought I'd throw that idea out there, and maybe we can, maybe you guys can talk about that, and we can come up with something. But that's all I had to say. So thank you guys for your time.
So, Chairman Bear, just a response general and to the public. And there's a lot of people who, it's the hardest part to understand is, this is what I paid for my house, why isn't this the value? And there can be a lot of reasons for that. And certainly we can take a 30-hour class like I did to explain a lot of them. But the big thing to remember is market value. It may be different than the price I paid for my house. And so that's a lot of the work we do. And I want to reiterate to Mr. Simons and everybody else, the governor's bill is placing a cap on budgets at 3%. And so we maintain the equitability portion of this, and we're capping budgets. So like this year, if you're outside the reval area and your value went up 7.5%, your taxes are only going to go up 3% when this bill passes, or 2% or 4%, or wherever they end up landing on. But that number is going to get capped. It's no longer going to continue to increase to some jurisdictions at the same rate that the assessments go up. So that is changing.
Mr. Hirschfeld, that is an important note to make, is like the 3% would only have an impact on that 5.7 million budget value. And so that caps our increase. So like we would only, if and I don't think we plan to do this, but we would only be able to increase our city budget by 171,000 and change with this new law that was passed. And so like that's the significant difference between what we're talking about tonight with the valuations and the budget number. Yeah, so that is an important distinction to make. So thank you for that.
And certainly those jurisdictions, I don't know if there's any in Dickinson that do this. I know there are others across the state. I've heard the comments about them. But there are many who don't set their budget. They cap, or their budget is set by the mills. They take the maximum amount of mills that they can take. So their budget changes by the amount that the valuation changes. So if the valuation goes down 10%, their budget goes down 10%. The valuation goes up 10%, they take every mill and the taxes go up 10%. I know for a fact the 5 people who sit at the dais up here do not do that. I can't speak for anybody else, but that part is ending. When the governor signs the bill, if it remains at 3%, the most of your taxes are going to go up, or 3%. If the 5 people who sit here continue to take no additional tax, your taxes won't even go up 3%. They'll go up 3% less, whatever the city share would have been, that 16%.
Can I respond? So two quick questions on that. Does it only go up 3% based off of this year's taxes, no matter how many years in the future it goes, and no matter if there's a sale or not? So like if my house is valued at 200,000 this year and it goes up 3%, 3%, 3%, and then I sell it to somebody for 300,000, does the taxes start based off of wherever I ended, or does it start on 300,000?
So the tax will be based on the true and full value established through the assessment process. So assuming we get through next year and we get to some level of equitability here, and better accuracy across the city, your taxes will only go up 3% if that's what the cap is. And so through this, even if that gets put on, and we said we've got 1,059 properties, if one of those goes up 100% or $100,000, there's going to be a little bit more than 3% that will go to that property through that equalization. But after that, outside of continued maintenance, additions, subtractions from properties, your tax bill is going to be a whole lot more dialed into a 3% cap maximum that you can start relying on, that I know my tax isn't going to be more than this.
Okay, so that kind of answers my question. So like additions will add more on plus the 3%.
Correct.
Okay. And then the other thing, you mentioned something about, you had taken, quite a course on valuating houses. In my mind, it doesn't seem like I need to, and I'm sure all of us here have studied the current market on what's out there as you're buying a house. But it seems to me like I don't, whatever the course is, it seems like it would take a lot of figuring to add, $90,000 or $80,000 onto the value that I paid to what the city assessor values it at, because, no matter what course you say, or whatever course it is, or whatever, system you use, the highest bidder still paid $90,000 less.
So, Commissioners, Chairman Bear, if you allow me to respond, I think we can make this educational. The reason why we don't take the sale price is because it can be manipulated. And so there are arm's length sales, which is a willing buyer, willing seller. They arrive at a value. We've got realtors here who help facilitate that. We've got a market. People can say, oh, this house sold for that. We know that's an honest value put on there. And maybe this is what I think my house is worth, or the house that I want to buy is worth, depending on which side of that you're on. But within that, you have non-arm's length transactions. You've got properties that transfer between governmental agencies and private entities, churches, exempt properties that didn't have a value. Foreclosure properties, what's the market value of a foreclosure? Certainly, if you've got to go through the 9-month process of buying one, you want to be compensated for that by paying less for it, and that happens with most foreclosure properties. But a true market value, would be a distress sale. What would it sell for? So once you buy the same property that you bought at a discount, it's actually probably worth more than what you paid for it, because a distress sale is worth less than an arm's length transaction, because you can turn that over quickly. So it's those kind of nuances that we review. And then on top of that, you've got, is the market going up? Is the market going down? We don't trend sales, we take an average. So the year may end significantly different than it did at the beginning. When the bust was on, a sale in January was higher than the same house selling in December. And so we're trying to explain that, yeah, your house probably isn't worth this now if you bought it, but in December, but we have to take that average, or we have to pull from the median of the entire year. So it's because the law does not allow us to put just a sale price on that. So,
Okay, so I get that there's going to be, maybe family selling to family, or foreclosures, like you said. But I would guess that the percentage of sales that happen like that are very, very small compared to the percentage that don't. Like 5%, maybe 1%. Sure. So it seems like we're making a rule out of, something. And even then, as somebody who likes to look at and buy houses, if I see the foreclosure, I understand that it's going to sell for less. But I also understand that most houses don't sell like that.
Well, and just to put a wrap to this part, I appreciate that. Certainly, through the legislative process that happened this year, there was a lot of discussion with the same opinion you have. I'm not discounting that. I'm not saying it couldn't be something that happened. However, that's not what Century Code, what North Dakota law is, and that's not something these gentlemen are able to do. But it's certainly something, contact Senator Rummel or other legislators in the area and bring that to their attention, that maybe we need to look at that in the off season here for next 2
Mr. Hirschfield, I wasn't meaning that exactly. I was more meaning, like you said, you try to get the fair and accurate value. I'm trying to understand how the fair and accurate value can be higher, even if you take the average sale.
So,
Mr. Sam, we do have to move on. I'm sorry. Can
Okay.
you wrap this up?
All right, thank you. You said,
and
Was that? No, could you wrap this up, please?
oh, yes, sir. Okay, I guess that's about all I really wanted to say is, many of us, I'm sure, feel the same out here, that we bought our house, we paid top dollar for it in the market, and the next year it's valued at sometimes 50. I had one that I said 2 years, it went up 50%. The one I'm currently living in is 30% higher. And it doesn't make sense to me how we can take other houses in the area that are not the same house and say, well, we're going to raise it up 30%. So I guess that's all I was going to say. I'll call you and let you come through my house and see it. But
and a phenomenal question, Chairman Bear, if you'll allow me to continue to educational here. To literally answer your question, we have computer-aided mass appraisal, CAMA system, which allows us to value 10,500 properties every year. So, 7 people can't do a fee appraisal on that many properties every year, so we have computer-aided mass appraisal. It's cost-based, so what does it cost to build that property new today? And so we take the square footage, we take the quality of the materials that are involved, design, all these different features, location, all of these go in just like your fee appraiser is looking at when he's valuing your property. And so we have these tables then that the computer can access these tables that we have developed, designed, fine-tuned. And so basically what we've done with every property in Dickinson, and why the inspection part is important, is we've measured the property. We try and go through the property to see what are the materials, what is the condition, is it been updated, is it new inside, has it had a renter in it for 20 years and it's dated, you know, maybe it's in good shape, but just you got 30, 40-year-old materials. So all of that stuff we enter, and with the sales that occur every year, we fine-tune the depreciation tables, and that's how we arrive at that value. So with yours, you may buy it for, you know, less than what the assessed value is for a myriad of different reasons, but it comes back to what would the most likely price be. It's not going to be exact. It's to get a rough estimate that this is what the house should be worth, you know, what most typical buyers would pay for it. And it's not to get as close as we can to the sale price as much as it is we're equalizing taxation. So if you're next to the house next to you, they're identical, the value should be similar because you're both getting the same fire service. You're both getting the same street maintenance and snow plowing and all of that. So whether, you know, one house sold for 10, 20, 30,000 more than the other is maybe less relevant to, you know, if they're exactly the same, are they being taxed at the same rate? Because they're near enough in value that way. So it's why we're not quite as accurate as I think some people are always hoping, you know, this is what I paid for it. You know, if we're in the 5 or 10% threshold, that's excellent. I think our market variability naturally is 7.5%. So you're plus or minus 7.5%, that property can sell within that range on any given day. And so there's variability already in the market. We're just trying to condense that down a little bit. And so I'm talking to you, you asked the question, but I'm sure many people behind you have the same question.
Yeah. Well, thank you for your time. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Mrs. Wanko.
Yes, Commissioner.
There's obviously quite a few individuals here that I think want to get up and speak in front of the board, the commission here. Suggestions on how we could go about that. We did make a ruling in the last commission meeting as for timing of people coming up here. I would like to hear from everybody who has taken their time to be here. My question to you is, should we fall back on that ruling?
How many individuals here would still like to speak? I think, you know, obviously we want to give everybody ample opportunity, but I really would like to make sure that everybody gets the opportunity tonight. So let's keep it at that 5 minutes. Obviously, if we need to go over a little bit, you have the discretion, Chair. But I really want to make sure everybody gets the opportunity this evening. So even if it is a situation where you feel like maybe not all of your comments got heard this evening, you're definitely welcome to talk to Mr. Hirschfeld after the meeting and so forth. But if we take 30 minutes per person, we're all going to be here forever. So let's just be mindful. Let's be as efficient and quick as we possibly can. And of course, you can direct that as best you can, and we'll just keep plugging away to get everybody in as quick as we can. But I would just ask, let's try to keep it to 5, and of course you can extend if necessary.
Yeah, because I would like to give everybody an equal opportunity to talk and say their things, and I know we have individuals that are waiting on the phone.
Sure. And I'll blame Mr. Hirschfeld for the majority of the comments on the last one. So, but if we can just kind of keep it going, and like I said, we want to make sure everybody gets an opportunity to chat this evening, and so we'll open it back up to the next individual.
Okay. Thank you.
My name's Joshua Braddock. I guess I was just going to comment on the cap that you guys were talking about. Just to throw some numbers out, the median house price from 2003 to 2025 was 286% of an increase. And I guess I'm mentioning that because a lot of people are going to be looking at the values of their house from when they've been in their houses forever. The cost of goods, which I guess when you're talking about the computer aided costing, the cost of goods from 2003 to 2025 has only increased 74%. So people are having a hard time swallowing 286% of an increase when the materials have only gone up 74%. And I guess I would ask that you guys take that into consideration if you guys do vote on the cap, that'd be a reason why there should be a cap on the yearly increases. So, thank you.
We have materials, and I'll keep it to 5 minutes. I'm Diane Dukeshire with Home and Land Company. Can you hear me okay? Okay. We would like to dispute the increase in assessed valuation for 886 14th Street East. According to the property tax assessment concepts of the North Dakota Century Code, market value is the most probable sales price for a property exposed to the open market, not replacement value. I have provided market data packets for each of you. The market summary are the statistics from the Badland Board of Realtors for each month from January 2024 to March 31st, 2025. Attached is a listing printout of residential sales per price point from January 1st, 2024 through March 31st, 2025. Between $1 and $199,999, there were 47 closed sales in the 15 months. $200,000 to $299,999, there were 89 closed sales. $300,000 to $399,999, there were 65 closed sales. $400,000 to $499,999, there were 31 closed sales. $500,000 to $599,999, there were 13 closed sales. $600,000 to $699,999, there were 4 closed sales. $700,000 to $799,000, just under 8, there were 5 closed sales, of which 4 closed sales were in the country with additional land and features. 1 closed sale was in the city of Dickinson, 1074 Timber Hollow Drive. Over 800,000, there were 3 closed sales, with 1 in the city of limits of Dickinson. The remainder were country properties with additional buildings and acreage. In 2023, we applied to the city to subdivide almost 1 acre of frontage property from the 886 14th Street East parcel. In discussing with other real estate agents, local contractors, we strongly believe that at least $100,000 in property valuation was removed from 886 14th Street parcel. In communication with Joe Hirschfield, he provided comparable sales he used in his analysis to support the increase. Attached is the documentation. 1574 Prairie Creek Road, customized home, just a mechanical room-sized basement, about 300 square feet, high-end custom finishes. The sales price was $869,000. The new assessed valuation, which I've attached in that flyer, is $778,500. 2156 Street West, custom home in State Edition, $1 million property, was newer, bigger, interior basketball court, fenced yard, very high-end finishes, superior condition, was also used as a comparable. 1970 Prairie Creek Road, new construction, not a really good comparable. 3454 Shamrock Loop, $304,925 in net adjustments against 886 14th Street. Not a great comparable as well. You have in your packet, the best comparable is 1074 Timber Hollow Drive, located on a private drive, market tested for 350 days. Original list price, $850,000. My final list price was $799,000. Sales price, March 31st, 2025 for $782,000. Attached are the city assessor's history of the property in recent years. April 2nd, 2024, April 2nd, city increased the assessment to $1,132,700. My client appealed the increase and subsequently was reduced to a valuation of $831,300. The spring assessment of 2025, the assessing department increased the full and true value as of April 8th, 2025, $1,077,500. Please see the documentation. Our sales price, we closed March 31st, was $782,000. It is clear to me that the models being used in the assessor's files are flawed and created a miscarriage of assessed valuation of many properties throughout the community. In 2022, the assessed valuation for 886 14th Street East was $762,800. 2023 increased to $808,400. 2024, after reducing the parcel by just under 1 acre, increased to $850,400. 2025 increased to $924,200. Since 2022, this property has an increase of $161,400. It was a non-arm's length transaction. My husband and I sold it to our son so that we could have our grandchildren extras. I would never sell my property to my son thinking that the city would assess it almost $1 million. In further analysis, I checked our two closing neighbors within the neighborhood. Today I thought, well, I should check theirs and see how much they went up. 834 14th Street East, 3,547 square foot ranch, 1.8 acres, 2025 value, $547,400. 822 14th Street East, 2,995 square feet on the main, 2,335 square feet with 3.34 acres, 2025 value, $734,500. 880 14th Street East, 2025 58, 1548 square foot in the basement with just under an acre. The values increased to $822,700. I know if these properties were put on the open market, our two neighboring properties would probably sell before 886 and 880 because they are superior properties. The current property assessment is so broken in this community. I cannot justify what's going on.
My name is Gary Ramsey, and I'm here on behalf of myself and my wife, Mary. I do also have some handouts. Unlike the previous speaker, my issue is not with my house. My issue is with the lots I have behind my house. And just for a bit of history, I bought my house in 1991 when I first moved out to Dickinson, 5 years after I moved out to Dickinson, and I purchased it for under $40,000. And I'm pleased that now apparently the city thinks it's worth much, much more. In 1997, the city came to the neighborhood and said, we will sell you half a lot behind your house, but your neighbors have to buy the half a lot behind their house. And if they're not willing to do that, in order to buy your half of the lot behind your house, you have to buy the half a lot behind your neighbor's house. So I did that. Then 2 years later, they came back and they said, we will sell you the other half of the lots, of those lots, which in this case happened to be lots 6, 7, and 8 of Washington's 4th edition. And so we did. Now, as time went on, the lots, the first 3 half lots we bought have always been assessed together. The other 3 lots have been assessed separately. Well, the fact of the matter is that the lot behind our house was not flat. It had a cliff, And we did manage to smooth it down so we could drive down it. And with that, I want to make, God, excuse me. I want to give these handouts so you can see the pictures of the slots. The issue is this, is that since the beginning of the assessments, those lots had never been assessed for more than $2,200. I'm talking about the south 70 feet of lots 6, 7, and 8 of Washington's 4th edition. This year, when I got my assessments, I saw where the assessment went up to $44,100, which by my calculations came out to be a 1,904.54% into infinity and increased in value. Now these lots are landlocked. Although I own the other lots that were part of it, they've always been assessed separately, as I said. And they had been assessed most recently at $18,000 per lot. One was slightly less, but the value of those lots were increased to $36,000. So 100% increase on 2 of them, a little bit less on the other one, because it's a bit shorter. Anyway, so with that, I did file a written protest, an appeal of the assessments regarding my vacant lots. I'm not concerned about my house. It went up 7.96%. And I understand that that apparently is pretty much the norm in the city of Dickinson. So I guess I can live with that, but I certainly can't live with the assessed value on my vacant lots.
So, Mr. Ramsey, you're saying that those lots are undevelopable, you can't develop them, they are landlocked?
What I'm saying is that the south 70 feet of lots 6, 7, and 8 of Washington's 4th are landlocked by my other lots. And so in order to sell them, I'd either have to sell my residence, which apparently now is worth $301,000, according to the city's assessment, or I'd have to sell the other lots. And when we bought these lots, the city said, we can't build on them because there's no services. When we bought the second half of the lots, they said the same thing. We can't build on them because there's no services. Well, of course, then in 2008 or so, the north side of 6th Street East was developed. My house basically is directly across from Shenagle's barn, almost on the same level, okay? Anyway, so, I got to enjoy basically 31 years of living in that community before the development, because it was a wide open meadow. But when the development came in, of course, I had to pay for the street and curb along my vacant lots. And my plans were really never to develop it unless my wife and I eventually decided to build a house on it on a one level, because we're all getting older. But that's still somewhere down the road. Okay, so I think everybody got pictures of what I'm trying to convey here. And if you could turn to them, I've numbered them. And the first picture is looking east from the west end of that lot, the chain link fence. The top part of that varies from 20 feet on the east end to about 8 feet on the north end, west end. And that's pretty much taken up by utility easements. Then you can see on the second picture how the lot slopes down. And having measured that slope, I believe the slope is about 35, maybe 35 feet. And photo 4 shows it looking from the east to the west. Photo 5 shows more of the lot, and that south 70 feet of the lot ends just a bit beyond the wire fence I have there. Anyway, so yeah, I was quite shocked by the fact that all of a sudden it's worth $1,904 and percent, 1,904% 0.54 more than what it had been in the past. So, I mean, that's well above a 15% increase. Anyway, and as far as my other lots, they've been increased, two of them by 100%, one by a bit less than that. And I want some adjustment here, you know? And I understand in studying the law that if I don't get the relief requested here, I hope I do, but then it's on to the county equalization board, and from there it's on to the state equalization board. And so anyway, I do not believe that the first half set of lots we bought, the south 70 feet of lots 6, 7, and 8, are saleable because, again, I would have to sell the other lots to make it work, or sell my residence to make it work. And I don't plan on selling. So with that, if you would kindly read my protest and appeal and give me your fair consideration, I would really appreciate it being adjusted back to where it was the year before, which was $2,200 on the south 70 feet and $18,000 on each of the other 3 lots. One, again, was slightly less. I don't have the figure right in my mind. But anyway, that's why I'm here.
So, I've got the GIS up, Mr. Ramsey. I'm well aware, I'm really familiar with your lots there.
You are?
So,
Okay.
yes. So that square that's behind your house is not accessible at all.
Pardon me?
The square that's basically right behind your house, do you own all that?
Yeah?
But, I mean, there's no street access to that.
No, not at all. No.
Unless you drive through one of these other 3 lots that,
Right,
that
yes.
adjoin 6th, correct?
Right. And if we have to get there with something, that's what we do.
So,
And, you know,
I think we need to probably review that one. I mean, there's some land value there, but, I mean, it's landlocked. I mean, you can't sell it to anybody, so.
Well, and Chairman Barrett, Commissioner Frederick, normally I would agree, but he owns all 3 lots. This is a portion of all 3 lots that haven't been replatted. Was taxed as a different parcel, but really there should be just 3 taxable parcels, not 4. And this is a question I'd really like our city engineer to weigh on, and replatting and all of that. Not necessarily saying no to this one here, but this one's kind of unique in how parts of lots were sold off several years ago, and he's assembled them all back together now and would have 3 buildable lots.
can I address that comment? The first ones were sold to us in 1997. The second set were sold to us in 1999. Was that like 31 years ago?
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, and we were told we couldn't build on it, but we didn't build on it. We haven't built on it. The city for all these years has assessed it separately. And the fact of the matter is when the new development came in, we would have had the opportunity to sell them. But we did not want to because the city of Dickinson did not, in that 50-acre parcel of land, provide any green space. And so we left it open. And you know who plays on it? The neighborhood kids, because only half of it's fenced off. And so, we want to keep it open. And the other thing is that when they came in with the development, I'm thinking, we're going to have to pay for a road. That road cost us $12,000 per lot, okay? So I said I don't know who it was, but there were a bunch of city officials out there looking at it and so on and so forth. And I said, you know what? We'll give some of this land back to the city so they can have a park there, okay? And the response was, we already have too many parks in Dickinson. Now, this is back in 1999, and I know they built parks since then. But anyway, we want to keep it open as a green space, and people can, the children can play on it. We don't care. They can run their dogs on it. We don't care as long as they clean up after themselves. We just want it left open, and we want to be able to afford to keep it. So that's why I'm here. Any other questions?
Mr. Hirschfield.
Chairman Bear, Commissioners, again, this is one of those parcels, vacant lots, you know, that haven't been valued, nothing we've gone out and looked at, simply removed vacancy factor from that. In essence, the value of the property hasn't been increased from what it has been for many, many years. It's just had a vacancy factor because land hasn't been worth as much, so we know there's a longer holding period. That's changing. Demand for lots is increasing. The amount of lots is decreasing that are available. That's why we removed the vacancy factor. These here, there's a lot going on with this property, but as I'm aware of it, he's got 3 buildable lots right now. Certainly, if we're looking to make a park out of this, there would be a reason to remove value. We can certainly have the engineer look at this and see if it's buildable and, you know, to address those concerns. And we could do an abatement at some future point to remove that if that's what we find. But as I understand it, right now, we've got 3 buildable lots.
Anyway, if I may comment to that, the idea is to leave some of that those lots open for a green space. We don't need a park there. I mean, kids play football, baseball, whatever on it, and I would just like to see it left that way. The thing of it is that we do want to have some access back from there to our other property. Anyway, so the idea was we would give part of it back to the city, save ourselves, you know, $24,000 for the street improvement, which didn't happen, and I think we'd still be willing to do that. But the thing of it is that you know, as young Mr. Simon said, you know, basically it should be the value. But the other point I wanted to make is this: is that the city has continually assessed these lots separately, and I think that establishes essentially what might be considered a course of dealing, or some other fancy legal word term that I haven't been able to think of right now. But anyway, the fact of the matter is that, you know, with these, well, anyway, maybe I shouldn't go there, but I think they should continue to be assessed separately. These other 70 feet are landlocked, and really they should have no more value than $2,200.
So, Mr. Chair, like,
Mr. Edelman.
this happened because we removed the vacancy factor. I would hope Mr. Ramsey lives there for another 30 years. It's had a vacancy factor on it for
I hope so.
30 years. I guess I wouldn't necessarily, he doesn't plan to develop these, and I don't know, like, when they're no longer vacant lots, like, I don't know why we couldn't remove the vacancy factor then.
Do we know, do they have services to them?
Services?
Yeah,
Is there sewer and water to the lots?
Yeah, there's water. Yeah, there's a couple stanchions, and there's a fire hydrant. You know, and I guess I get to pay for a sidewalk. You know, we're going to be doing that, or the city's going to do that for us.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's going to be about 20 or 25. So anyway, but the fact of the matter is there's other lots being developed, as you probably realize, to the southeast, where those apartment buildings have been built. I mean, there's 3 houses that just gone up in a couple months. There's 3 more going up. There's a lot of land there, and what really surprised me about that development was how close they put these houses together. But anyway,
I mean, I know this area very, very well. I mean, I built all the twin homes along that street there. So
pardon me?
I built every one of those twin homes right next to
you
your
did.
lots.
Yeah,
Yes.
right. And we had a discussion with the zoning commission back then because they were going to make it commercial right up to the right up to our house.
I remember that conversation.
Yeah. Okay.
I think then we can look at them, but you realize that probably the lowest price lot in town now, buildable lot, sells for about 50,000.
Well, good for the people that are going to be selling them, you know?
You know,
Yeah. All right. I thank you for your time and your consideration.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm David Steinbach. I live at 1192 11th Avenue East. I received this intimidating notice. I consider it harassing and improper. The price of my home, they valued it at 45% over what it was. Now, that's a little bit insane. I mean, when you open your paper and it's moved up 45%, it went from 238,500 to 345,700. It's just I mean, when you're a senior citizen and you're living on a fixed income, to see something like that, I mean, that's totally insane. I mean, that's elder abuse in my mind. But I called the office, and they sent out a gal and reevaluated it, and so they lowered it to 317,300. It's still a 33% increase. And I don't know if she's blind or if they only look for things to increase the value of your property, because the house was built in 1980. That's 45 years ago. It sat empty until my wife moved in. We've been there a little over 40 years now. The only occupants before us were a lot of mice. We haven't changed. We still got the original carpets, the original linoleum. I replaced a couple of the interior doors, but the rest of them are all this old, dark, prefab, paper-covered stuff. You know, nothing much has changed in the last 45 years. And they come in and say it's worth $317,300. I don't think so. Anybody that would come in to buy that house and look at it and they say, oh, you ought to have this much for it. Why, you can go out and build a new house for $350,000. It's all new. And my paint is peeling. My driveway is sunk 4 inches below. I got to jump the vehicles to get them in the garage. It needs to be replaced. You know, that's another $20,000 to replace the driveway. I don't know what it costs to repaint. Paint is gone insane. It used to be $20 a gallon. Now I think it's $100. But I don't know how they can come up with these valuations when it needs so much work. I started replacing my kitchen cabinets in '93. I haven't quite got it finished, but the laminate I was making them out of is discontinued already. I haven't got them all in. You know, my wife has had some medical issues and things. You know, there's things in life that come up that take you away from your projects. I've never been I don't make $109,000 like Mr. Hirschfield here. You know, and I'm not working in an oil field where they give you $1,800 a month for a house payment, plus you give $25,000 to build a new one. I mean, that's insane. And I think you know, when I bought my house, there were like 5 empty houses on every block in this town. And I could have bought Dr. Anderson's house up on 14th Street. At that time, it was only $5,000 more than mine. But the taxes were $3,500. And I looked at the taxes on the house we looked at, and I believe they were, with the specials, were $1,200 at that time. Well, we bought our house because we could afford to pay the taxes. And with increases like that, you're turning it around to where I can't even afford the taxes on the house I could afford to buy when I bought it. It's just totally insane as far as I'm concerned.
Mr. Steinbach, can I have your address so I can just look up your property? Can I have your address so I can look up your property?
My address, 1192 11th Avenue East. I don't think you can zoom in good enough to see the paint peeling. I looked at a house just down the street. Let's see. At 856 11th Street East. It's a ranch-style house, looks basically like mine. It's 1,344 square feet. My house is 1,210. The full and true value on that is $270,700. That's quite a bit away from the $317,300 I got for increase. I've looked at another one. Well, the best one is my next door neighbor at 1168. His house is only 100 square feet smaller than mine. His full and true value is $262,800. Now his house has never been updated either. The guy's a bachelor. Nothing has changed in that house except reshingling and repainting over the years. And I think my house is more in line with that house than what came up with on this reevaluation. I've got several here from other areas down the street that are the same square footage, and they're all way less than $300,000. Now, I don't know how they come up with this $317,300 for mine. When I called down there to his office, the gal said, "Oh, we do a drive-by." I didn't know they allowed blind people to drive. You know, it's obvious the paint is peeling on my front steps, the rails and stuff. It's just unacceptable, a rate like this. And then I called the state, and the guy told me what I'd have to pay over my homestead credit and what the credit for. And, you know, it was just unbelievable, you know. My house insurance, you know, there's another thing, you know, they come about the same time as the city taxes. And my house insurance has gone from $500 a year to $2,500 a year, and they, you know, they increased the deductible to thousands instead of the few hundred it used to be. And all these big changes, just how's a person supposed to stay in their house? That's about all I have to say.
Thank you.
Dr. Bear, would it be possible if we just took a 5-minute recess? We've been at this for 2 hours straight, so
Sure.
that's okay?
Okay, we'll take a 5-minute break. Okay, we will resume this time.
Are we open to public comments still?
Yes, sir.
All right. All right. How's everybody doing? That 5-minute break do everybody pretty good? I'd like to open it with a joke. My name's Talon Danforth. I'm at 514 First Avenue West, a block south of the old hospital. I also wrote a book about reverse psychology. I ask that nobody reads it. All right. Yeah, well, they can't all be winners. All right, so like most people here, I went and looked at the tax records, and I did see that my house was disproportionately up to the houses around me. Right around that 30% mark, the houses around me were between 11 and 12. However, what I did notice was the parcel number 0010400070, 46 5th Street. The assessed taxes for that house is 0. And it has a $6,000 credit for a disabled veteran. Nobody lives in that house. I then looked at the owner of the property, and it turns out one of them used to work for the city of Dickinson as a former computer technician named Samantha Oat. So you do have to live in the house to get that tax credit. How much fraud is going on in the city?
Because the map you showed us earlier, the house was checked according to it. How accurate is that map? It was assessed, rather. So how come this wasn't caught? Sir?
Oh, you're asking me directly?
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if that was rhetorical or not.
No. Like, how many houses are getting tax credits they don't deserve? And how often are we checking it? Because we seem to be going up in the values a lot, but it's very worrying. And what kind of roadblocks, deterrents are there? That is open to anyone right now.
46 Fifth Street West?
Yes.
I'm looking, it's assessed at 168,000.
Yes, it's assessed, but the taxes are zero currently because they have a $6,269 credit. Would you like to see the paperwork on it?
I mean, is there a disabled vet there? I guess. that's
Nobody
something.
lives there. And you do have to be living in the home to actually get that credit. Nobody's lived there the entire time I've lived there. It's been 3 years, and the house has been gutted inside, so it's in the middle of a remodel. I don't know how long it has been vacant, but it has been a substantial amount of time.
Mr. Hirschfeld, like, what do we do in situations like this? If, I guess I don't have the, when's the last sale on it?
2021, February
Okay.
2021.
Okay.
Also, they moved the fence line on me, and I'm sorry, I just don't know who to talk to about that. Because I bought it in 22, they moved the fence in 21. Near as I can tell, there was no changes to the plot, at least documented at the assessor's office, so I don't know who to speak with about that.
I mean, would that be building codes, Dustin? Yeah. But like, Mr. Hirschfeld, I would like some more information on like when that tax credit was applied to the property, and you know, might just be an oversight, but we should probably do some research on that.
Chairman Bear, Commissioner Oderman, they have to apply annually.
Oh, okay.
We certainly don't go around checking to make sure everybody's in there. That goes to the county. I think it also goes to a state for review, so I don't know why somebody would apply for credit on a house they're not living in when they would be eligible likely on the house that they are in. And, you know, possibly they own this house and working on it and they live somewhere else and are sneaking in one in two different communities. But I know there's supposed to be checks in place for that. It's not something that we do. That would be, you know, at a county or a state level. But they do have to apply annually.
Yeah, so we probably just need to investigate it. And then, Mr. Dossinger, building codes on the fence thing.
That's correct. I'd reach out to building official Leonard Schwint. In regards to that, give him a call. Leonard Schwint.
Leonard
building
Schwint?
official. Schwint. Yep.
Twins.
Schwint.
I'll ask somebody later. All right, thank you guys. You've been excellent. Thank you. Oh, one more point I'd like to make because we were talking earlier about what was it, Prop 4 or whatever. If you move to Canada or somewhere like that, what you'll find is there's a lot of people living in another country who are essentially using homes as protective assets. And I don't necessarily believe that having taxes on homes is a bad thing. And I do believe that we need to have a correct assessed value of them. But I'm just a little concerned that's a little high now. Do you know how much the assessed values changed when the interest rates went up? Do you have like a way to calculate that if they're at 2% versus like 7 or 8%? I just want
Sure, I
generally
could, but it's
edification.
not something I have in front of me.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
That one's pretty easy to follow. Last week I was at one. Yeah. Good evening, Commissioners. I'm Kenny Koslecki. It is just hard to understand why the city and town taxes home owners on property value and not on the space they occupy. We developed our home and lived in it for 23 years. I have seen it increase throughout the years, but never this dramatically. We built our home so we could afford a nice home. We did not prepare for these high taxes. I am retired, to which my wife is semi-retired. This increase is not in our budget. I have contacted a few realtors and asked what they would list our house for on the market. Example, last year a house across the street from us sold for $500,000, for which I thought was crazy. After talking to realtors, they would list ours around the same price. You can ask whatever you want, but if you want to sell it, you have to come to reality. So with that being said, how can ours increase $214,000 above last year's assessment? I'm sorry, but like the mom and pop stores that have to keep raising their prices so that they can afford to stay open, you're raising them too high and people will go elsewhere. If you raise them too high, you're going to chase out the middle class economy. My wife and I have decided to go through, you will lose us also. We tried to stay here for our kids and our grandkids, but without going back to work, we must leave, which is hard because my family has been a Dickinson resident our whole life. This reminds me of back in the school studies of our forefathers about the taxation without representation. We attended the city meeting about repairs of our curb and gutter costs, to which the city would absorb the cost. Is this an attempt to retrieve that money? We have done nothing to improve our house since new, so why should our taxes increase that much? Thank you.
My name is Philip Wallace, and I live at 1284 11th Street West. And we built the house new in 2000, and we've lived there ever since. And our assessment value went up this year 70%, went from 504 to 867. And I don't know what we did to improve that, but I mean, there's no way we can afford it. Tax is going to had been around 5,000 a year, and I think now they're at 10,000 a year. So I guess, so what does a person do in that situation? I mean, you get this letter in the mail and tells you this kind of information, and you're looking at yourself and you're retired and you're thinking, wow, this is a hit. What did I do wrong with this city, or what happened here? Why am I getting this, a double increase in taxes? And I built this home, and we don't even have city services. We got city water, we got city sewer. The street we take care of ourselves. We take care of everything else ourselves except the garbage. They take care of the garbage too, but. And we basically, we use the city streets to get the businesses and stuff like that. So, I can see, we should be paying some taxes, but I think that's a little bit excessive. And I don't know why this sudden increase. And I guess I don't know what we're going to do about that. It needs to be a change, or else a change in ownership of my house. That's how I look at it. So are we going to get together at some point in time and talk about this and see if we can get this squared away, or is this what it's going to be?
Chairman Bear, Commissioners, now if I recall, we've talked to a lot of people. We have not visited your house yet. We've been in contact back and forth a little bit, but haven't been through the house?
No, we haven't been through the house for a few years. I can remember we built the house. They went through the house, and we pretty much told them everything we were going to do with the house. So we're going to completely finish it and actually put up a shed on there and stuff like that. So they're aware of all this before when we built the house, because we just pretty much had everything done with the house when they had it built. And the value went from 504 to 867, and I don't know what we did to increase the value that much. And like I said, the taxes went from 5,200, I think is what I paid last year, and I think it's like 10.4 or something now, I think is what they're looking at.
And you probably didn't have to do anything?
No, I didn't do anything to the house.
Combination of, as my presentation, that, an assessment that was done differently at one time and
Right.
has compounded throughout the years to this point, and just catching up, and then certainly, be happy to work with you. An opportunity to go through the property, make sure we've got an accurate card. If it is, we're pretty sure of a value then. If not, we'll certainly correct the card and
Yeah,
change the
we've
value.
got a good value on it. We actually just had it appraised, and it's less than what your appraised value is. I've got it right here with me, but yeah, I don't understand. I guess, I just think there needs to be something done about this. Because I'm not gonna pay that amount in taxes. There's no way I can afford to do that, so.
So commissioners, I think that would be a good place to start, is just a chance to go through the house with you, maybe even review your appraisal, see if the appraiser saw something we didn't.
Okay.
Make sure we're taking everything into consideration.
Sure, okay. Yeah, I can bring an appraisal to your office and we can look at it, go through it then.
Very good.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Roselle Unruh, and I'm coming up here because we got the yellow sheet. With ours going up $121,100. Our house was built in 1979. We had the girls come over and look. And with the square footage, which is 1956, they came back with it being raised 84,600. We haven't done anything to this house, pretty much. It needs new windows, it needs new paint, new garage doors, pretty much probably new flooring through most of the house. We did update a little bit the kitchen with flooring and countertops. That's it. What I don't understand is, like I said, our house was built in 1979. I looked up a few houses. Granted, not in my area, but one house built, which is President Decker's, built in 2008, 2,175 square feet. Property pretty close to ours amount. His taxes went up $43,000.
Miss,
Newer house.
Miss, I missed your address. Can you give me your address again so I can look it up? I missed what you said. Sorry.
1266 Empire Road.
Okay.
Mr. Oderman's house, built in 2020, square feet a little lower than mine. His taxes went up $33,300. Mine, $84,000. Friedrich's house, built in 2013, square feet 2302. His taxes went up $57,600. I'm just very confused. I don't understand. We told the ladies that were at the house, they saw we need new windows, we need new garage doors, we need new paint, on the outside. They saw this. And knock it down 20,000? Really? We can't, this is insane. I'm not paying that. I told my husband, I said, I'm done. I want to leave. I don't want to live here anymore. So, can you explain to me why mine went up $84,000 and it's a hell of a lot older than these? Granted, I said not in the same area, but come on.
So, commissioners, the not in the same area is a big part of that. Through my presentation, I mentioned the 6-year cycle that, we're trying to get in place. We've been working through that over the last several years in just staffing issues, growth issues, and all of that has made it a difficult thing to get done quickly. So your property, in addition to getting the 7.5% increase that the houses you identified got just as a market increase because of increasing demand for the properties.
There's no way nobody's going to pay that for my house.
What does
No
it
way.
matter if I get a 7.5% increase when you're telling me it's nothing to do with an increase, it's the true and full value? all they could talk about when they were there that day was the replacement cost. Well, the damn thing didn't burn. I don't need it replaced, I just need it valued. I can't get 400,000 for it. If you wanna give me 550,000 for that house, you can make the, I'll give it to you for 450. I'll sell it to the city. Come on, it's ridiculous. Every one of us is screwed.
And
We can't afford to live here no more.
certainly, I would, open the invitation to come visit us. We'll show you houses that have sold that are similar to yours. And
I guarantee you there's not a similar house in town like mine. I'm sorry. But
We have a hot
how
water
about
heat.
this? If I put it on the market and I can't get 400,000 for it, is that enough to justify? Everything I hear is smoke. I'm sorry. I want to respect how you do things, but I can't because you're good at circles, but it's not telling us what we need to know.
Well, I apologize if that's the way I'm coming across. I try and be
But
straight
you
and
keep
black and
talking
white here.
about this is how we decide what we're gonna, this is how it's decided, this is how it's decided. Free or equitable, whatever you call it. But it's not equitable if I can't get that for my house. The guy that bought the house for 280 or whatever and sold it for, within a year it's at 360 and you're telling him that's equitable because he got a good deal? He paid the most of any,
In 2022, our house went up 20,400, 23, 23,500, 24, 22,900. This is insane,
It's-
what we paid for the house to what you're saying it's
we
worth
bought it
now.
in 2010 or 12.
10.
10 for 250, and now you got it at 560, and it hasn't had anything done to it. Thank
So
you.
just-
I can just extend the invitation,
Well,
come in and.
I'll come and
wait.
talk to you. I'd gladly come and talk to you, sir. But what's going to change between them gals coming over and having it assessed already? What can change?
Well, if there's still an inaccuracy, we can still correct an inaccuracy.
How
So-
do I justify what I think?
Well, it's not possible with us doing it here. So that's why I invite you to the
Okay.
office and.
Do I need to get somebody to come in and appraise it, or just have a realtor come over and adjust it? Will that help?
And those are great questions that I can help answer. 'Cause well,
But if you answered that to me
So-
right now, I'll do it before I come
so,
and waste your time.
That's a good question, Commissioners, if you'll bear with me here. Because there's others that here probably have the same question, so we can answer that. So you ask about an appraiser. I'm an appraiser. That's what I do. So I've made an opinion of value, just like they will make an opinion of value. So the question has to then become, what is it about your house specifically that would not allow it to sell for what everybody else's houses are? That's a question that needs to answer. I don't have that answer. That's where the invitation is. Let's explore that.
Okay, we'll do it. We'll contact you, and we'll do whatever we can to work with you.
Sure. And then, we can explore other alternatives after that, but, let's make sure that I'm on the same page with your house as you are too, so.
Sorry I get fired
You
up.
know your house better than I do.
Right, Joe?
Thank you.
Thank you.
I was told this is the first step in correcting my value of my property. I live at 1237 14th Avenue West, Dickinson.
Could you give your name for the book?
How you doing?
Record?
First question, how much did it cost for the Legacy Square? Do we know? Council, how much did it cost for the Legacy Square? Council,
I don't have the exact number, but it was like
6 million? Did that
4.9,
money, did that cost go
I
in?
think.
Oh, okay.
It's
Did that
4
go into the budget to increase my property taxes?
No, we haven't changed the budget for what we take in property taxes in 7 years. We get 5.7 million, and it's been the same since I got on the commission.
Okay, so 6 million, okay.
It was 4.99 million and some change, and half of that was donations from private individuals.
Right. Okay, you got my address? I'll be back. Bye.
What was the number?
1237 14th Avenue West, 2 years ago, the city decided that they had made a mistake 75 years ago. It's taken me 2 years, and I'm still getting mail, not mailed properly, packages sent to other cities, other streets. Just because the city made a mistake, I've got to pay for that too. See ya. Have a good time, guys. Nope. Neither did they. The phrase is, I'll circle back to that.
Good evening. My name's John Schmidt. My wife and I both grew up here in North Dakota. I left here in 1986 with my job. We've been gone 36 years. We got these lovely emails from the state of North Dakota saying, please come home and retire here. We want you. We came back, we bought a house. We've been in it 2 years. My property taxes are 29% higher than when we bought it. 29% in 2 years. I'm retired. I commend you guys on holding to the budget. And I think part of what everybody in this room doesn't understand, 57% of that budget goes to the schools. The schools, in my opinion, and I'm a new resident here, they had a bond last year, or the year before, whatever it was, that they snuck through on a special election because it wouldn't pass in the general election, because there was enough voters that didn't want to see their taxes go up then. So, you know, I mean, they got to look at the whole picture here. Taxes are taxes. Doesn't matter where it comes from. Doesn't matter, you know, I mean your house's values, you could value it at $100,000. They're going to have more mills to get the same tax because you're going to get the dollars you want at the end of the day. It doesn't matter. So appraisals are great. Taxes are the issue. I voted to control taxes at the last general election, and I guarantee you if taxes continue to go up in the state of North Dakota, that next time that bill goes through, it will probably pass. And then where are you guys going to be when nobody has any money to do anything in town? That's what's coming if we can't control taxes in this state and this town. We're not California. We're not Massachusetts. We've lived in 3 different states. We even lived in Colorado for several years, 8 years. And I'm telling you, my taxes on a much larger house with a much, much larger lot were less than I pay for my taxes here by $2,000. Now $3,000 after this year. So, I mean, if the state of Colorado, known for all their liberalism, has lower taxes than the state of North Dakota, rural, that's a problem. The other thing that I look at, you know, I grew up on a farm. How come farmers that have $1 million houses in our county don't pay any taxes on that house? I think the state should take a look at maybe giving an exemption of a few $100,000 for their house. But when a farmer can build $1 million+ house, not pay a penny in property taxes on it, that's a problem. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Brad Coleman. I live at 1180 11th Avenue West. Thanks for the time. I'm just confused at how my house was built with brick on it, yet it went up $97,400 due to the 7.5% standard increase, plus the veneer on the outside, which is the brick that it was built with in 1975, as well as a heated garage, which doesn't even heat my garage. So I'm kind of confused at how it got so high, I guess. So that is a question. Sorry, I'm not very good at this.
So, Commissioner, a heated garage that doesn't heat your garage?
In fact, it doesn't heat it so much that it froze this year, and I'm still getting it repaired. It's a double stall garage with a pass-through garage on the side, separate garages. The one side has no heat whatsoever. The one side has a tiny heater where we still have to heat our cars in the heated garage. But because of that, you guys, I called the office and they said that the 7.5% increase and the veneer on the outside of the house, as well as the assumed, you guys never got to come through my house, they assumed equal houses all had heated garages, so mine had to have a heated garage.
And so...
So that part I'm not overly concerned about. I understand I didn't let you in my house, so I understand where you would maybe assume a 1975 house had a heated garage. Seems weird to me, but The veneer on the outside of the house, how does that come about? The house was built with brick. How would that not have been assessed any time from 1975 till this year?
And as we mentioned earlier, this is the first time we've been by there, and when it was initially assessed, they did not put brick on the house.
I mean, it was built with brick. How was that not assessed?
I wasn't
that
here.
way?
I'm scratching my head the same way you are.
Fair. So, would it be fair to say the same thing as other people? Just have a meeting with you and get it dealt with?
Absolutely. Give us a chance to look at it, and
Fair enough.
if there's any corrections that need to be made, we're happy to. We don't push values. The city doesn't try and take extra tax.
Oh, yeah.
And so we want an accurate property record card.
Fair.
And we're most accurate if we can get into it. If we can't, we do the best we can.
So how
from
would
the-
you guys
from the
not
curb.
know that it had brick since conception of the house, though? That's on public record.
It simply comes about through a revaluation process where when you go to a house, initially as it's being built, like we would say something new now, the expectation is, IAAO would say you try and do a revaluation every 6 to 7 years. And through a myriad of reasons that have gone on with staff before us since then, that isn't something that's happened, staffing issues, boom cycle of all the new houses. And so it's when you're left with, do you go out and measure the new house and get value on it for taxation? Or do you go out and look at houses that are already have a value on them? We prioritize those that haven't. And so the lesser priority then is the revaluation. And as staff, we gain staff as they become experienced. We do more houses. For whatever reason, this is the first time these houses have been looked at in a very long time. And I mean, it has to be the first time at some point when it starts. Unfortunately, it's now. I don't like having to say that. It's just how it's come about, and we're trying to correct that.
Fair. I guess I don't know what more to say, but I'll be in touch, I guess.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Jesse Keidel, and I live at 673 22nd Avenue East. I've been in contact with Mr. Hirschfield. I've talked to you. I've talked to people in your office over the course of 3-4 years already. And that issue is the assessments on the property in what is called Painted Canyon Estates. Now, I had a call from your office Thursday in which I was informed that my taxes were being readjusted down. I was also told that there would be a letter forthcoming to that effect. That's been almost a week ago, and I assume it takes time. However, not having it has compelled me to be here tonight to verify that with you. And did it indeed go down?
And that, to make sure I heard you correctly, you said your address was 673 22nd
Right.
Avenue East. So I have a note here that we did do an occupancy change to that whole street there, because it's not just yours, and it's been a continued problem.
That was
So
part of
we-
one of my questions was,
we-
and speaking for the other landowners there too, if this applied to me, it should also apply to the other 19 units.
And so to yours specifically, because I don't have the others here, it looks like we have a reduction of value from 371,100. Does that sound like what went out? To $352,000, which is $9,000 less than what last year's value was. So,
Okay.
and
Well,
yes, we,
that is fine and dandy, so my complaints actually pale in comparison to what I have heard here tonight. I mean, mine is insignificant compared to this. But the point is it all revolves around the same thing, improper assessments. Now, I talked to you, and there was supposed to be a 6th Street completed between 18th Avenue and 22nd. That was part of the selling scheme for that property. It's never been done. I've talked to the city engineer and any number of people, and I've mentioned it to you, that this was never done. Now, why wasn't it done? I still have not had an answer in almost 7 years. There's an alley that is our direct access in and out of there without going 2 blocks north, 2 blocks east, 2 blocks south again to get out to 20, the old highway. Or you can take a circuitous route around to the west, which if you ever go over there on 6th Street or 10th Street, you go all the way around. It's a long haul. So this street, 6th Street was never done. So there's not direct access other than this alleyway, which goes past Dan Porter's, which I've been complaining about for years with this place being blocked to traffic. That is supposed to be 23rd Avenue. The sign was taken down. They still park in there with a no parking sign there, and nothing is ever done about it. They've got trucks, and I've got pictures if you want to see them, of the trucks parked east and west in that right-of-way. There was like a 25-foot right-of-way, 22-foot right-of-way in there. And they block that constantly. Now, they've been talked to by the city engineer, and they still continue to do it. So our access is limited there. That road, 22nd Avenue, is an old county road that they just paved, which is not wide enough, basically, for 2 vehicles of any width to go by each other. So the answer is I can protest all this and have someone come over and put in everything. But the ultimate thing is there is a covenant governing this area. It called for curb and gutter. That was all part of the package, and it was approved by the city with a plot development by the developer. Where is our curb and gutter that it called for? We have none. I was told, well, you got a drainage ditch. Yeah, we do. But it also takes and infringes on that roadway. One side has already been marked as no parking. So people continue to park even in front of the no parking signs. And I've repeatedly reported that and requested vehicles to be moved. I've even had neighbors come over and park in my driveway because they got no place to park.
Excuse me, Jesse.
But the answer is always, we can go ahead and do something, but you're gonna get a special assessment.
Could you, Jesse, could you bring that up in front of the city commission?
Pardon?
What you're talking about right now? Could you bring that up?
No, I have
in-
not
could
appeared
you bring
before
that up in
them.
front of
I've
the city
had
commission?
several meetings with the engineer. Right now, I'm preparing another letter to him, registered mail, that addresses the issues that I talked to him about, that they were going to address. I was told they were gonna put signage there. They were speed limit signs. They were gonna do this, they were gonna do that. To date, I've seen nothing.
Could you bring that up to one of our city commission meetings?
Not at the city commission. That'll
No,
be
I'm
my
sa- I'm
next
saying,
step.
could you bring that up?
You know, because, and the answer is, like always, we can do it, but you got a special assessment. So how many people can afford to do that? Now, we're talking about assessed values. My neighbor just had one done for Gate City Bank on his house. They came back with $345,000 value. And I believe it was appraised at like 380,000. There's one next to him that it was on the market in April of 24 that was for $319,000. And it was appraised at almost 390, I think, somewhere in that area. There's one for sale right now over there that's on the market for $380,000. It's been assessed at $402,000. They're going to be lucky, all of them, if they ever got that price for them. Like the last gentleman that was talking about my property, if you want, the city wants to buy it for what they appraised it for, I'd be more than happy to give you a discount and you go ahead and buy it. And I'll be out at Dickinson in one fell swoop. Now, the rest of these people, I can understand, I can sympathize with them. I understand what they're going through. When you're living on a fixed income and trying to support a family, or whatever it is, you have expenses that you have no control over. The city needs to adjust their budget to reflect this time that we are in. We're pinching pennies to try and survive and afford these places that we thought were going to be nice. And here we sit. It boils down to what the mill levies are. I mean, this is getting ridiculous for everybody. I'm sure you all have family members, mothers, fathers. How do you think they feel going through this? Don't you think it's time to do something about it? Thank you.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Aranda LaFortune. I'm the general manager at the Prairie Hills Mall. We are here today. I have Mr. Sathi Morthy on online, and we are here to appeal our 2025 property tax valuation for the main mall parcel. We appreciate your time and opportunity to be heard. Much of the supporting evidence has already been sent over to Mr. Hirschfield, so he should be in the know with all of that. I'd like to give Mr. Sathi Morthy time to speak on this matter, if that's okay to unmute him.
Hey, good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
You're a little quiet.
Yeah, hold on one sec. Can we turn the volume up, please? Control room.
Hey, good evening. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Hey, thanks for your time. I have been listening to all the conversations that has been going on. I totally appreciate all the efforts the city is taking in this regard. The situation for us is, as you all may know, we bought this property April of last year, just after the last year's meeting like this. We tried to appeal then based on our purchase price, and it was since we were told since it was decided based on the February 1st assessment, and therefore we didn't have opportunity to appeal then. And my understanding was we can bring it this year. So we did bring it this year, but we were told there was no increase from last year. But the problem is the purchase price versus the assessed value is several $1 million more. It's about close to about 40% more. In the meantime, we were able to sell out parcel lot as part of this whole property. I've been glad that we were able to do that for a better price than what it was assessed for. But the situation there is the other lots there are not really usable because there was a situation where the current purchase of this lot, which is Pizza Hut, you probably are aware already. They were looking at the corner lot there, but with the city rules and regulations, they were not able to get the access to the road because of the corner or the junction there. And it is the same situation for the adjacent lots there as well. And the slope of the rest of the lots, the size, the shape of the lots are not that adequate for any development there per se. That is a situation there. This is a one-off that we are glad that we are able to sell off, and that money is actually being spent on improving the mall actually. So we request you to revisit the assessment. That's all I have. I mean, we are open to provide any more additional information if that's needed.
Chairman Bear, Commissioners, I don't have a lot to add to this. Just simply, unique properties, mall properties are regional. We have one in Dickinson, so nothing else to compare it to. And to do an appraisal like this would, constitute, if not leaving town, to go make sure that the market is apples to apples, it still include probably 80 individual hours just to try and arrive at a value for this. And so I rely on the work that we had Vanguard Appraisals do for us last year. They have that data. They're in the entire Midwest. And so they're using comparables and doing that kind of research, depreciation, you know, that would be typical for a mall like this. And so they arrived at their value. The ownership here are relying upon an appraisal they have. And I remember looking through that. I haven't had a chance to review it again. I looked at it last year. I remember I had some concerns about some adjustments between markets that was made. I don't remember what those were. But specifically, I wanted to point out that in this appraisal, they'd pulled lots 7, 8, and 9, which are outlots to that property that ownership had discussed. They'd valued those at $4.45 a square foot. And since that time, ownership has replatted to those lots. And within that, there were 64,033 square feet sold off for $795,000 or $12.41 a square foot. So the appraisal had a significantly lower value estimate for this land than what it was actually sold for. And so we're back to that difference of opinion thing. So you've got one appraiser who, with his opinion, with his research, comes up with one value, and then we've got a company that we paid money to provide an appraisal for us who have arrived at a different value. When I'm looking at 35 sales that have occurred in Dickinson, and we have a median ratio of 85%, meaning most of those sales were undervalued compared, or sold for more than their assessment were undervalued. You know, a lot of the evidence leans towards it's unlikely this property is overvalued, despite the fact that it sold for less. Maybe it should have sold for more, maybe not. Unique properties are very difficult that way. So my recommendation, you know, based on this outlot, that, you know, if it would have went the other way, if they'd have sold it for $2.50 for less, then, you know, say, oh, maybe there's a good chance that Vanguard was high, but it went the other way. They sold it for 3 times what their appraiser arrived at just on this lot. And that's a small part of the property, but it's an indicator that the appraiser was light on his value, in my opinion, and I'm recommending we stick with what Vanguard did.
If I may, we already discussed this over the email. The problem is that is a one-off situation where that lot has been sold for that price. That is primarily because it's closer to the 3rd Avenue than the rest of the lots. And the topography and also the city constraints, it's not, I'm a developer myself. I don't think I can develop anything there. So that's one thing. And the assessment is based on the Vanguard stuff you're referring. This kind of property is unique to the location. We're looking at regional. There could be other regions that are better doing than this region. So I don't know if that's the right way of assessing it.
I think it simply comes down to when the appraisal was done, February of 2024, you know, we're looking at a 37% increase. That's significant.
And one more thing to point out is any gain we are going to get out of reducing the assessed value and in terms of the tax is actually going to benefit the tenants there, because they are paying portion of the actual property tax. So these are all small businesses who are going to benefit.
Mr. Hirschfield, I mean, do you feel that, I mean, is the sales price accurate that's listed on here? 11,400,000?
11,400,000 is accurate. That is for all the lots plus the main mall, and there's a split up given there.
So that would be assemblage of all the properties that was
Yes,
sold.
that's correct. Right, and to his point, the assessment for the lots were not correct is because of the assemblage also. I mean, it was bought as a whole thing, and when you look at the individual things, it may be different. I understand the difference. I'm not denying it was sold for a higher price than what it is assessed for, so that particular lot. But if you have to look into the overall picture, then the actual assessment for the main property is not correct.
Okay. I mean, we have a sale within a year for a number. I mean,
Less than a
I
year,
would really
yeah.
like to understand how.
Well,
I mean, I could understand if we were off a little bit, but no, this is a little. I mean, the assessed value is almost over.
It's
It's
about
over
$4
$2
million
million
we're talking
difference.
here.
Right.
No,
and
if you're
that's-
talking about the entire thing, yes, but this specific lot alone is $4 million difference.
Just the main mall parcel alone is close to $4 million more.
And being on planning and zoning, I know what he's talking about. The remaining parcels that are around there have no access. The city's pretty much told them that they can't access off of 6th or 15th because it's too close to the intersection.
That's correct. And that's the reason, actually, the Pizza Hut was wanting to use that corner lot, lot number 9. And because of this constraint, they couldn't move forward with that. And that's why they moved to this lot.
So wouldn't that affect the
And
value of those lots if
I
they
mean, we
have to
were-
access it from the parking lot?
I'm
No,
sorry,
for
Commissioner
this
Frederick,
lot,
can
they
you?
have access from the road. For the rest of the lots, the access is not advisable by the city, primarily because of the junction there. There's a lot of things that needs to be taken into consideration because of the junction.
Okay.
And definitely there may be a way to do it, but the cost of taking care of that is going to be significantly higher than doing any development there.
I always have a hard time when we have a current sale. That's, I mean, the sales is not even a year old
or
yet.
something different.
So the,
I mean, and Vanguard had to be probably pretty aware what that sale was when they were here.
well, no, it sold after we received the valuation.
Yeah, that is true. But when Vanguard was there, this was under contract, though.
And so the other thing with this one too, and maybe it was part of the negotiation, I'm not familiar with all of that, but that property is also now in the Renaissance zone, which adds value
Yeah,
to
that,
it.
that is
which
true. It is
wasn't
in
part of the
Renaissance
marketing,
zone,
which may have
but
added value
we
to
don't
it,
have any
to the
benefit
appraisal
towards
that
that.
wasn't given to it before. So you're not looking at an apples to apples comparison there either, because the Renaissance zone will affect the valuation as well.
But the Renaissance zone has not given us any penny yet. I actually reached out to, because that was one of our motivation to come and do our investment in Dickinson all the way from North Carolina to North Dakota. That was one of the motivation. But unfortunately, I don't know if some of you were involved in those meetings. We were told we were not eligible.
So have they filed a formal abatement? For
Yeah,
us to-
I
for
have
us
a
to
letter
hear tonight?
recommendation. Sorry?
They're here informally protesting the valuation. I don't have, I think he's asking for the appraised value, but he doesn't own it all
That's
anymore. And we've got it, I mean, we've got lots now that are sold for 3 times what the appraised value was, which is going to be different than ours. We've got an assemblage, we've got multiple properties. You know, I'm not sure exactly where we're at on which one of all of them, the conglomeration. I'm not exactly sure what the request is tonight, but they're certainly here, you know,
The request
opening
is-
the door here.
I already provided through the email all the different parcels and what value it was purchased for and what was the appraisal that we received for each of one of them. And my request was for the main lot. And since you brought up the lot was sold, I wanted to be transparent. I gave all those information as well. The ask is for the main mall. It's lot 1.
The one that's almost $4 million more than what the appraisal was that was conducted. February 22nd of 2024.
I understand we may not be able to decide right today, and it's also late. If we can certainly take this offline and discuss further, but we certainly would recommend getting this reassessed.
I think I would recommend that you and Mr. Hirschfield get together on this one more time, and then if you're not satisfied, then file a formal abatement request.
Okay, so yeah, maybe. I was reaching out through email. Maybe there's a formal form that we need to fill that we can do that. Yes.
Because I mean, we as commissioners are not seeing any of this evidence that you're providing, so it's really hard for us to make that decision right in this second. You don't understand what I'm saying?
I understand. I'm sorry. I was under the understanding since we have provided that through email, it may be available. It's my mistake. We could have printed out. We did not. I totally apologize on that. All I request now is we need to revisit, and we can take the next steps offline.
All right.
I do have a copy of the appraisal, the emails, the purchase agreement.
Yeah, it may be easier if you're able to meet with me in person and
Absolutely.
and
Yeah.
have ownership on the phone even. So when we go through the appraisal, I'm able to more easily point out any concerns, issues, and maybe within all of that, there's a number in between there or something that
Yeah.
we point out or at least come to an understanding too. So
I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Aranda, for staying. I know you have kids at home. Thanks everyone for staying this late also. I'm in East Coast. I'm at 10 o'clock now, so it's okay. Thanks, everyone.
My name is Bob Schrum. I live at 1162 Gum Avenue. And your appraisal is way out of line, 40% in 1 year. I mean, you go from 408 to 572. Like this gentleman over here said, how can you afford to live in this city or town or whatever you want to call it if you have, I mean, I'm 70 years old. I work 70 hours a week to afford what I've got. And then you're telling me now I got to pay more? I can't wait till you guys get that age, and then it happens to you. Including you. My wife was up at your office, wanted to talk to you, you were busy. Your gal said you'd call her back. This is a week ago. You still haven't called. What's your excuse? Are you that busy?
I apologize if I missed that phone call. I know she spoke to staff, so we'll have to check back on that. But certainly, if you're waiting for a call to me and want to speak with me, I'm very willing to do that.
Yeah, I know. That's why you called back. I would like something done on this. Thank you.
Thank you. And sir, would you make sure that my staff's got your phone number so we can give you a call back? I'm sure we've got it somewhere. I don't see it on our list here, but just want to make sure we have that. And you don't have to speak it in front of everybody. I've got my two staff. If we have that, perfect. Thank you.
Nobody has anything. I have one more thing.
Is there somebody online that would like to speak?
caller online like to speak?
Yes, can you hear me okay?
Go ahead.
And I apologize. This will be quick. I know you guys have been at it all night. My name is Kyle Kennett. I'm with Walmart.
Could you
we
speak
reached
up,
out to
could you
Mr.
speak up louder, sir?
Sure. Is this better?
Can we get the volume turned up, please? Okay, sir. You got the floor.
Okay. This will be brief. My name is Kyle Kennett. I'm with Walmart. I've reached out to Mr. Hirschfield to discuss the value of our store there in town. I just want to reserve the right and make sure I'm appearing before the city now to go to the county. We've ordered a third-party appraisal on the value of that store. I've reached out a couple of years in the past, and it's such a unique property. It's hard to gauge data what this value or what the value of the real estate should be. The supercenter there in the city of Dickinson is the highest assessed supercenter in the state of North Dakota, just north of $106 a square foot. I think Fargo is the second highest, roughly $104 a foot. But the land value is over double what the supercenter is there in Dickinson. So again, this is just reserving the right to take this to the county. I anticipate that the appraisal will be done in the next couple of weeks, and then I'll follow up with the mayor's office at that point.
Chairman, Bear, Commissioners, been in contact with the caller. They're waiting on an appraisal, and just more or less reserving their right to be heard. I mean, they can be heard at the county level regardless, but to be heard at the state, you have to come here and there. I would like to hear a number, if nothing else, if caller's still on the line. And I know it's not important to an income approach, and you certainly don't have to tell me tonight, but I would like to see the position of the sales in Dickinson as total sales out your doors compared to other properties. I do think we're kind of busy here, and I know a lot of times we get the appraisals, they have the dark store theory in them, and in areas that are blighted that don't have an open buildings. We certainly don't have that case here, so it would be interesting to see what sales are here, and certainly would that mean that if you didn't have a building, would you build it? And which means, you know, the demand would be here. So that's just a request, and nothing that you have to put out there in front of public right now.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I'm still on the phone. Well,
Okay, thank you. Anyone else who has not gotten up and speak yet that would like to get up and speak?
I had one thing I forgot. I'd like to ask Mr. Hirschfield, your taxes only went up less than 7%. How can yours go up only less than 7% and other people's go up 45, 50%? Shouldn't it be the same for everybody?
So, Commissioners, want to make sure we're clear here. It's not taxes, it's valuation. We don't do anything with taxes
Well,
here.
your evaluation went up.
So the
That's what
valuation
we're here
did.
to talk about.
And so yours was in a revaluation area. We talked about, you know, the different areas of town and annually trying to get to a different area. Mine this year was not part of that valuation area.
Yeah, I know. I checked, and there were about 8 houses in our neighborhood that I did check that went up over $100,000 at one shot. Now, that's not right. If some areas can go up less than 7%, all areas should go up less than 7%. I mean, we're all created equal. I mean, we've got computers nowadays. You should be able to punch a button and it raises them all up. I mean, if you don't have a programmer that can do that, then you better get a new one of those too.
That's not the issue. That part's the easy part. It's the physically getting out and inspecting. That's the hard part.
Well, they definitely must have had their blindfold on when they looked at my place then,
Well,
just to reevaluate it. I mean,
And as a reminder, we had the opportunity or an option to do that at $1.8 million. And so instead of incurring that tax expense, we've decided to go the route that's a little bit slower but saves a lot of money.
it doesn't save me any money.
Any other individuals that would like to get up and speak? Okay. If not, I'm going to close this. We're going to move on to the next, to section E. The Board of Equalization shall place upon and add to the assessment roll any real property subject to the taxation which has been omitted by the owner of, or the assessor, and shall enter the property as valuation which will bear an equal or just proportion to taxation. Mr. Erstfield.
Thank you, Chairman Barrett, Commissioners. Just to reiterate again, and I don't think we have to add it at this point, the property evaluation was sent out, so they were noticed of it. It was just to be the removal of the exemption of the one property, or the consideration of exemption that's coming up. And that value, again, be a taxable value of $18,890 from a true and full value of $377,800. So just make sure we're on the record here number of times, so there's no concern that we've missed that.
Okay. Commissioners, any questions? Okay. Move on to section F. After the adjournment of the board each year, neither the governing body of the city nor the city board of equalization shall change or alter any assessment. Neither shall the governing body or the board of equalization reduce or abate or authorize the reduction, abatement, or return of any taxes levied upon such assessment for any cause except that the property assessed was not subjected to taxation at the time of the assessment was made. Does any action be taken? Just move on, okay. Moving into section G. Consider applications that may be filed for exemption of improvement to residential or commercial buildings. And, Mr. Erstfield.
Chairman Barrett, Commissioners, that list of exemptions should be made available to you. We consider that to be accurate, except for holding, like I said, the aforementioned property located at parcel ID 2990-0100-0110. It is occupied by a church property, but the ownership is a for-profit, and therefore it's not eligible, so we need to remove that.
I would move to approve the exemption list minus the property Mr. Hirschfeld just noted.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any further questions? Okay, we will vote. Commissioner Oderman?
Aye.
Commissioner Riddle?
Aye.
Commissioner Frederick?
Aye.
And chair votes aye. Okay. Moving on to section, bullet 3.
Commissioner Bear, we got to go back up to the top now. Now you guys got to, now you have to go back to what you sort of tabled at the beginning with regard to A and B with regard to the assessor's report and the motions that you were previously discussing. So we'll have to get a decision on that before we adjourn this evening.
Okay. So we're going back to section.
Yes, the conversation, the discussion that you gentlemen were having with regard to the potential cap at 15% and all of that, that decision still needs to be made on what you'd like to do this evening.
Okay. Commissioners, do I have, Any continued discussion that you would like to continue on? Any further discussion?
I guess, going back to what John was recommending, my proposal would be a cap at 20%, and hear me out. I'm going to assume that we're going to have a 7% a year for the next 6 years. That's going to be my assumption. It can be changed every year if it's different, but if I take 20 minus the 7.5%, that gives me, 12.5% times 6. That gets me to 75% in the 6 years, that bringing these properties close to the value. I mean, I think, our end goal here is to try to get these equalizes and not try to give some relief and not try to do it all in 1 year on these properties that have been, gone up 60-70% because they got revalued. So that's my proposal. I'm open for any comments or discussion on that.
Clear. Again, for clarification purposes for the motion, I presume that you mean that to apply to all of the revaluations, no new construction or anything else of that nature, correct? Very similar to last year?
That's correct. It would be anything that's revalued. And I would think I would exempt any new construction and probably anything that is sold within the last 24 months where we have a fairly accurate sales number.
Commissioner Frederick, I'm not sure I heard.
That would exempt any new construction or anything that has a sale within the last 24 months where we have a pretty accurate idea of what the value is. So it'd be just reval properties that had a huge increase that haven't sold in the last 2 years, and we have gone up more than 20%. So.
And properties revalued this year, or 2024.
Yeah. Yes. And that's my proposal. I mean, I'm open to discussion with the rest of you. Mr. Oderman and me are a 5% difference, but.
And starting at what percentage? I'm sorry, I didn't.
So we cap it at 20, because I'm going to assume a 7.5% increase per year. That leaves 12.5%. For 6 years is 75%. That should get us pretty close to equalizing these properties in the 6-year time period until we get back to their house.
So to make sure I'm clear, because we're starting to get a little punchy here, we're starting with the properties that have received a 20% increase or more.
Yes. Well, if they've got a 20, they're gonna stay at 20. But I'm talking the ones that are 60, 70, 80% increases.
And that's where's our.
We're gonna cap it at 20% a year for 6 years.
Starting at what percentage over the increase? So.
Well,
I think we're overcomplicating it there. Why do we, let's just say that you can't raise a property value of more than 15 or 20%.
Yeah, so I agree. In turn, it'll be 20% max.
Yeah.
So
no matter what.
If we have a 7.5% increase, let's just that's the flat increase to everybody. So that's our basis.
Yeah, that's okay.
So then we're going to the reval properties, take 20% above the cap, so be starting with the ones that received a 27.5% increase?
No.
It'll be 20%.
So over, if we average out 7% over 6 years, that's another 42. Is my math right there? Yeah.
Yeah,
42% increase in their valuation. Which is just insane to me that we would continue that, but we have to assume that because that's what it's been.
I mean, we have to make that assumption. We can adjust that yearly, but
But like, so in a 6-year period, that'd be an additional 42 on top of the, if it was 20% per year, that'd be over a 6-year period, 120%.
That's what I'm saying.
So,
So
like-
basically, it's 12.5% to catch us up per year.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to make the assumption it's going up 7.5% every year. So 12.5%. The standard increase plus 12.5%.
What?
See,
If I told you guys, I'm afraid it's going to be more than that next year, does that change your mind?
Well, we can talk about it again next year then. I'm trying to fix these properties that have been assessed increase of 50, 60, 70%. I'm trying to give them some relief and give them a little time to catch up. I know they've had relief for many years, I get it, but it's a sticker shock. When you open your assessment and it was 400,000 last year and now it's 700,000. And that should not be happening.
I
If
certainly,
equalization is done correctly, this should not have been the issue.
I certainly empathize, But I have concerns of what this opens us up for.
I'm not concerned about it one bit. If the state or the county doesn't like it, then they can be the ones to blame and the people can go there and complain to them. Because I'm telling you what, we've got to do something. This is happening too often.
And my concern is less about that than I am about the arbitrary and capricious activity maybe being an argument.
It's not arbitrary or capricious. I think we have very good reasoning as to why we're doing this. I mean, that we can throw out as many legal terms as we want, but like, it's not arbitrary and capricious. We have given a lot of thought to this. We've spent almost 3 hours talking about this. This isn't arbitrary.
But it will be to everybody who has a full valuation.
Commissioners, just so that we can kind of keep this discussion moving along here, so just make sure that we're understanding where we're all at here based on what the discussion has been, just so that we're clear. So the thought process would be, based on Commissioner Frederick's motion here, would be that to cap it, so anything for the new valuations that do not include, obviously, new construction, new sales within the last 24 months, we're excluding those. Just so everybody's aware, we are talking residential property, not commercial, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so I want to make sure that we're clear on that. So that any assessments would be capped at 20%. So if someone is at 30, they're capped at 20. So they're going to pay the 7.5 of what it is, plus whatever that difference is, 12.5 up into the 20. And for anybody who doesn't hit that threshold, your assessment is what your assessment is. So is that the understanding? Is that the motion that we have in front of you?
I still want to talk about the number because I don't know if 20 goes far enough.
Okay.
Like, I mean, I think we settled at 15 last year. I think we can do 15 again this year. I just, because like you think about it, $500,000 house, that's go from 5 to 600,000 in 1 year.
So two points of information. We move it from 20 to 15. We're going to be adding properties because the numbers we pulled was from Mr. Frederick's request for 20% and higher. I don't know what that number is going to be. The other, we work this through, if it goes through, I have to provide the accurate value next year, which would be without these caps. We would have to put that back in place again next year and do this again. That's what the law is. Assuming this makes it through there, I still have to provide the accurate, true and full value next year as well. which will coincide with another 1,059 properties that we will finish this project up with. So we'll have those as well.
Explain that to me again. I don't understand. Why would that, like, so if you've got your new value here, you know what the new value is. Why would that be additional work for you guys? It's just that we would be back here at the table again next year, and the 113 or whatever properties would also be considered in that revaluation role again. Is that what you're saying?
The additional work, I'm not sure if I'm following what you're asking.
I guess I'm not following what you,
Okay,
what
so
you just brought up.
We do computer-aided mass appraisal, in which, you know, we value the property. Here's our estimate of what that value is. With this action, instead of doing mass appraisal, we have to physically go in and make these calculations and adjust that, put a board of review value on every one of these properties. To follow state law, we would have to remove all of those, put the new value on, and because it's a new year and a new assessment, if this is a project or program that you want to continue, we would have to make that motion to add this year's properties, and I'm assuming you would want to do next year's as well to add that to that, because we were 1,059 short of being done.
I don't care how you do it. I just like, I mean, I think that's why we pay you to do it. Like, I don't. However you do it, and like.
So
maybe I'm being like flippant right now, but like, Joe, however you do it, I don't care.
And last year when we did this, we were all staff 3 weeks implementing this. It got undone. We were 2 more weeks unimplementing that.
Yeah.
We lost 5 weeks of work, which if that happens again, it may mean whether we get 1,059 done or 750. Maybe we get them all done. Maybe it's not an issue. But it was certainly a time crunch last year.
Yeah, that's. And I'm sorry that happened. That wasn't us.
It's what it was. I'm just saying.
The first 3 weeks was us, but
just saying what it was. It was 6 weeks 5 weeks that got us back to square one, and so.
Any other discussion? So we have a motion.
Yes, I'd make that motion.
Do I have a second?
What percentage are we at?
20.
I guess I'd like to hear Commissioner Riddle or Dr. Bear's thoughts on this. Jason and I have talked a lot.
I'm as low as we can go. That's where I'm at with it.
Which is?
I mean, I would agree with Mr. Oderman on the 15%.
My thoughts are, I know something needs to be done. Obviously, I do not want any of the people that came up here, I don't want any of them to lose their house. I don't want any of these individuals to move out of Dickinson. The outliers have me concerned. I mean, I can't imagine what that's like to get that piece of paper in the mail. We need our citizens. We need to keep them here. I don't want people to leave this city. Is there a compromise between the 15 and the 20 that we could go to?
I guess my only concern is with 15 is that's 7.5%. I mean, over 6 years, that only gets us to 45% of catching the value up. We're at 20%, that gets us at least to 75% of catching the value up. over 6 years. I mean, I think that's where I'm at with it. I mean, I'm not opposed to 15. I just think that we're not going to be doing these properties justice if we're not catching them
Yeah.
up.
Well, so like, and I guess on the 20%, you catch up faster, but like, there's probably significantly fewer that are in that like 76, that 60% range, right? It's typically more in like the 20, 30, 40%, or
I don't have the exact number before me, but I would say we're probably 66%, 2/3 of them that are going to be 40% or less,
okay.
which you
So
guys make the decision.
does that change your calculus a little bit on that? Because
I
like,
mean, I suppose, yeah, a little bit. I'm
because you
just-
got outliers that like it'll take longer to catch up, but
I just look at, I'm just making the assumption that at 7.5% for 6 years is only 45%. Well, we're still 55% behind the 8 ball then, you know? We're at least at 12.5%, we're at 75%. We're still 25% behind, but we're a lot closer to the 90, 100%, you know?
yeah.
I mean, that's just my thoughts. That's just my thoughts on it.
And in year 6, none of us might be sitting up here, and the people that are sitting up here might be like, those guys are idiots. So why'd they do this?
Very true.
Do I hear an 18%? Commissioner Riddle, your thoughts?
I still like the 15%.
I mean, I will say if Mayor Decker was here, he might have. Oh, I had talked to him about this, and he told me that I could share. He was willing to go as low as 3. Like he was ready to argue for something pretty significant. And I mean, I still think 15% is significant, but the legislature. I mean, there's still a chance that there might still be some changes. There's still a couple bills out there that impact this.
Mm-hmm.
Commissioner Frederick, you want to change that, stay the same? Where are we at?
I'll let my motion fail if nobody wants to second it.
Commissioner Riddle?
I'll make the same motion at 15%.
We have a motion for 15%. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any other discussion? Well, then go to vote. Commissioner Oderman?
Aye.
Commissioner Riddle?
Aye.
Commissioner Frederick?
Aye.
Chair votes aye.
Mr. Hirschfeld, just for clarification, I think we are going to need, that was for residential properties. I presume you're going to need something for commercial as well for this report, correct? Or no? Do you need them to approve the report that you have set forth with your commercial values, is what I'm asking?
So we have one property before us that actually is looking to adjust their value. Is that Prairie Hills for commercial?
That's the one that we heard this evening.
The mall. With the,
But your other valuations,
so
you stand behind your report. There's nothing that's changed on there, correct?
So it was the decision then that we're going to move forward with the mall, and we'll work towards a value that they can abate then?
Yeah.
I want them to file a formal abatement.
So then yes,
They want us to give them a value tonight without
right.
us being able to review any of the evidence. I mean, that's nearly impossible.
So then, yeah, I think we're at the point where we need to accept the values. We can accept the entire commercial value and the entire residential value with the changes that still need to be made and brought for you. And I don't have a list of everybody who spoke who actually is protesting the value we need to talk to and those who are just here to speak. So we'll have to find that list and maybe go through the minutes and would hold open those, but we should close the rest of them.
Well, and those people, yeah, I mean, we could do that, but they could also go through the formal abatement process. I don't know. I mean,
Well, take it to county as well.
yeah.
And I'm certainly, if we need to make an adjustment, that I would champion that before the Stark County, that, yeah, here's a correction that needs to be made,
Yeah.
you know, and take that with them too. And if I can't, then they're free to protest it out at the county, so.
Okay.
So then the entire residential value pending the changes with this motion.
I mean, I would assume most people here that spoke have a value that went up more than 15%.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they'll probably
Yeah.
be taken care of already.
Yeah. I would make the motion according to what Mr. Hirschfeld just said there, to approve the valuation with the change that we just made.
For residential,
For residential. Can I
At
group
15%.
commercial with it too, or no?
I would separate them for
Okay.
purposes of this.
Yeah.
Second.
So for the record then, we are voting on accepting a value of $1,307,198,088 as of tonight. Now, corrections get made, there may be a different value, but that's what we believe to be the true and full value for all commercial properties tonight. $1,307,198,088.
We're talking about the residential right now.
The commercial right now.
No, we're
Oh.
talking residential.
All right, so, sorry. That's a value of $2,036,856,000 with the adjustments to be made with the motion of capping values at 20%.
15.
Sorry, 15%, thank you. To the, well, we don't even know how many properties that is now. We'll have to,
Yeah. Yeah, so moved.
Second, okay, we have a second.
Second.
Any further discussion? Okay, if not, Commissioner Oderman,
Aye.
Commissioner Frederick?
Aye.
Commissioner Redl?
Aye.
The chair votes aye.
Then I'll make a motion to approve the commercial value at, what is it, 1 billion, or? $306,820,288?
$1,307,198,088 because we had to add the exempt property back.
Okay, I'll make that motion then.
Second.
I got it. First, motion, second?
Second.
Okay. Commissioner Frederick?
Aye.
Commissioner Riddle?
Aye.
Commissioner Oderman?
Aye.
Chair votes aye.
Okay.
Any further discussion or any further issues to be discussed?
Commissioner Bear, I just, again, I applaud the discussion had tonight by all of you. I know this is always a unique topic to discuss. Just so the public is aware, obviously, this does go in front of the county, and the county can affirm or reject the decision that's been made here this evening. So, of course, for any of those individuals, and I do think Mr. Hirschfeld has a good point, if he meets with them and for whatever reason the city adjusts its position on its valuation, a letter of support or something from Mr. Hirschfeld in that regard would probably be the best way to address those issues and get it of record. So, again, thank you, gentlemen, for your discussion. And then I think the last thing is for a motion to adjourn when we get to that point.
Well, before we adjourn, Mr. Hirschfield, I would like to thank you and your staff. I know you guys are, you and your staff are very hardworking. This is very difficult, I can admit. Difficult for you, difficult for us. I mean, it's not that, I don't think any of us disagree that you do this, you don't do your job right. It's just, it's hard when you have people up here and the possibility of them losing their homes. It looks good on paper, I know that. It's just difficult when we hear how this is gonna tear people apart and take away from families. So I commend you all on what you do, and I thank you all. so.
Agreed.
You guys do a great job. So, thank you. All right, last item, motion to adjourn, please.
So moved.
Second.
Second, we are adjourned.